Hey, thank you, Mike. All right, we go ahead and call this. All right, you can call this public forum to order. Excuse me. Gary Sansing Public Forum is intended for matters not included on the agenda for the upcoming BCC meeting. Citizens wishing to address those items on the agenda, please sign up to speak to such item during the BCC meeting. Speakers, please refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or any other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless determined by the chairman to allow for sufficient time for all speakers. The Gary Sansing Public Forum may end 5 minutes before the start of the BCC meeting to allow the meeting to commence on time.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Our first speaker will be Tom Jardine. Edward Robinson.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It has to do with 3720 Navy Boulevard, Pensacola CrossFit Gym, intruding back into Wesley Heights subdivision, put 15, 20 people in the roadway on a road that hadn't been repaved in over 60 years, or maintenanced, or sidewalks. I'd like to see about putting it on the next month's agenda item so the gentleman running it can come and have his say, and we can get to the bottom of the public safety concern. He's acting like a real bully. Yesterday I come home, he's in the road, doesn't live there, lights on, wanting altercation. His business up on Navy Boulevard. I'm back here in a residential neighborhood. This has just started a few weeks ago, and the board needs to get involved with it. Mr. Calder, I'd appreciate it if you could go ahead and see if you can't get with the administrator, and let's put this on the written agenda for next month as an item to where we can get that gentleman, Abe Welch, get him up here and 15 years they've been up on Navy. All of a sudden they're darting back into the residential neighborhood. You don't have access to your road. It's just impeding, obstructing, and creating, well, you know, we have school buses coming in there, sanitation, people putting their containers in the road. There's not enough room. Repave it, get us some sidewalks, perhaps, as long as it's on the sidewalk. But they're making no effort to move out the road. So I don't want to hit anyone. The gentleman just installed cameras looking over my privacy fence. Not down the road, has no investment in the road. So clearly it's escalating. Law enforcement refuses to come out. They take the position, anyone can run the road. Well, at this numbers and the way they are, and they're not getting out of the road, well, there's an accident just waiting to be had. So where the board stands in putting it on next month's written agenda as an agenda item so we can discuss this in detail. Steve, Chairman, you think that's feasible?
We'll have to see.
Oh,
Hey, Edward, Mr. Chairman, if I can talk. What I'll do is what I've already done. I'll have code come out and look if there's some violations. That's where we got to start. I'll talk to Ronnie Rivera again to see if there's something that the Sheriff's Department can do. That's the first level of attack we need to go at before I'm not really sure what we'd put on the agenda. So other than you and this individual at CrossFit come out and I guess have a brawl. But Tim, can we go by his property and see if there's a violation that we can, if there's something that's in the ordinance, and then I'll also talk to the Sheriff's Department. Oh, did you know that, Edward?
well, that's on a separate piece of property. I mean, to be all fairness, I'm being just run all over right here in front of my home. I mean, it's a conflict of zoning. The board, at least Barry and Lumen May, is quite aware of the situation. Y'all directed 250,000 automobiles at my front door at all hours of the night, 365 a year. And I spent the last 15 years debating, and finally got that shut to a minimum. Oh,
Yeah, well, I'm glad to talk to you about it anytime. I'm not, recalling that, but your time is up. But
Yeah,
feel free
yeah,
to call me anytime.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I'd like to get it on the agenda for next month so we can engage. It's
I'd encourage you to get with Commissioner Kohler and talk about having him set it on the agenda, but we're going to have to move to our next speaker. So thanks, Edward.
Yeah.
All
Like
right.
I said, Marino.
Edward, your time's up. Thank you.
Okay, Tom.
Tom. All right, Eddie. Next speaker, Joe Brandstill.
So I have a building on Navy Boulevard and trying to sell property to satisfy the code enforcement because I have to hire a crane to come in and do some work to satisfy the code enforcement. And so I put my house on the market, and all of a sudden the title company says, well, there's a lien by the county on this other property. Well, I need $95,000 to complete all the major work so I can hire some people. I can't get commercial funding. I've drained all of my personal funds, my IRA, everything. So I need to sell some property because that's where all my property is. And now all my assets are frozen because the county has placed a lien on every piece of real estate I have, and I can't sell any to generate funds to fix the ones that I have. But it was only exposed yesterday, and I got a buyer who's going to buy it by Friday. But I've got this lien, and so if the board would just say that, yeah, we can release one of the liens on one of your properties so you can generate some funds so that you can actually satisfy the lien release, then I can take care of that. But as it stands, I don't have any funds to fix the property that I have my code enforcement violation on. And so I just need somebody to help me out and release the lien on one of my properties so I can sell it. But I can't, and so I call everybody yesterday, and whoever's in charge of the liens says, oh, we'll put it on the agenda for October, and then I got a buyer who's signed a contract to buy it now. And so if the board would just say, yes, we'll get rid of the lien on one of your properties so you can sell it, so you can have money to take care of the other property, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris Kerb.
Good morning, Chris Kerr, Flood Defenders. Yesterday, went to the groundbreaking ceremony for Delano, and that was encouraging to see the engineering department has gotten this $8 million construction project going. It's been several years since that grant was applied for through FEMA, the Hazard Grant Mitigation Program. And really just goes to show you how our FEMA programs, they probably need to be revamped, but maybe that's something the American Flood Coalition can work on next. But your grants that you get for these FEMA grants, they're not free. Your staff has to jump through a lot of hoops to earn those grant funding. Your normal drainage projects, I mean, you have design, permitting, property acquisition, and bidding, but when you have grant-funded projects, that requires a lot of extra work to satisfy the grant eligibility requirements, submit deliverables, prepare quarterly reports, and even request your reimbursements for the funding, because they don't just cut you a check. Speaking of grants, last week I started a conversation with Santa Rosa County with the Flood Resilient Florida Grant Program. And I asked the question, you know, Escambia County got 16 million or almost 16 million. How come Santa Rosa County hasn't gotten a lot of grants over there through this program? And for that matter, if you look at there's a map that FDEP has on their site, shows all the grant awards for the state of Florida. Why does the Panhandle not get as much grants as you know, the rest of the state? And Santa Rosa County responded to me going, well, you know, they try to pursue grants that don't have match funding. You know, the Resilient Grant Program, Florida Resilient Grant Program has a 50% match. They try to go for zero match like the Restore grants. And the reason they do that is because they have limited staff. And point I'm trying to make here is investing in your staff resources and your drainage budgets, that yields you grants. And you really have to invest in your staff to get these grants. I hope your proposed budget for next year has adequate funding to secure more grants. I know you have on your agenda today 4 projects, 2 planning and 2 construction grant applications for Resilient Florida Grant Program. I hope you have money in your budget to provide that 50% match, because on your recommendation it says to be determined as far as funding source. So, but anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Stan McDaniels.
Good morning. Lovely morning on a Wednesday. You know, Jesus flipped over the money changers' tables, and, you know, I've been doing a lot of searching through the law with everything I've had going on in my life, and I came across Article 1, Section 3 in the Florida State Constitution that says, no funds, directly or indirectly, shall be given to a religious or sectarian institution, and yet I have seen this board do just that. You know, this quite possibly could be about those gay space aliens with lasers that are burning down neighborhoods, or it could be about coming to repentance and following Jesus Christ. Hope you guys will find that repentant heart and change your wicked ways.
George Levy.
Hello, Commissioners. George Levy, Pensacola. I want to compliment Commissioner May, Chairman, on his comments last week about all the money going to clean up the beach, Pensacola Beach, and the question about other funding for other districts seems to be disproportional. That kind of goes in parallel with my concerns about the expense for the lifeguards, and why there's not more direct user fee for that. It's something to consider. In addition, I see I got a recent tax thing, proposed taxes, and taxes are increasing, which a lot of people are hurting now because of insurance and everything else. But I have a concern about how much of this tax money is being wasted, and wasted in ways that has good intent, but is not properly being used. And one example is, like I've always been saying, about concerns about flooding and drainage. And some of these projects become boomerang projects where you fix it, and 5 years later it's washed out and got to be fixed again. Why wasn't it done properly? It's sized properly in the beginning. I see that multiple times. Okay, good example, Lake Charlene, Bristol Park, there's a dozen. And now we got new developments. We had a virtual meeting this morning about new development. I think we need to take a close look. Are we just making more expense? And the taxpayers are paying for it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chris Dosa.
Mr. Chairman, before you speak, Chris, are you speaking about the issue with TDT? Because we put it on the agenda. I added it to the agenda.
Right. Yes and no. With regards to the agenda item, the need for an AG review doesn't have to happen. We already have one from 2 years ago.
So you're not speaking to the agenda item?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. With regards to, well, first, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Hey, hold the time. Chris, I just don't want to intertwine. I think that Jeff did add the issue as it relates to Steward's development tax to the agenda, so it's going to be a discussion on the agenda.
The actual taxes, or just simply the AG thing? Okay.
I don't see how you separate it. I mean, it's a holistic. I don't see how you separate it. I mean, it's going to be a whole conversation.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. And if you would just sign up for that item, we'll call you up when that item comes. All right. Thanks, Chris. Rhonda Wood.
Good morning. I wanted to thank the county for doing the project on Longleaf. Okay. I just wanted to thank the county for the project on Longleaf. The bridge that got put in the day before school started, which is good because traffic on Longleaf gets bad. My concern is the ballpark. They're having a jamboree this coming weekend. There's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of children and adults there. The parking hasn't been fixed. They can't be parking on both sides of the road. You can't get EMS and the sheriffs and everybody down in there when everybody's parking on both sides of the road. Just security, are they going to have enough security there? And that's it. I just want to thank you guys for the project on Longleaf.
Thanks, Rhonda, and I think Michael Rose is here, and you're absolutely right there. There's always been a problem of parking at that park, and it's probably going to be thousands of people, but certainly I'm going to be meeting with the sheriff, and I think that this board was very supportive of extra security on last year, and I talked to the park president, the league president, and I think the city and the county will probably be on board to help with that. We have anything else? Guys, we will start back promptly at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Board of County Commissioners, regular meeting, August 16, 2023. 9 o'clock a.m., Ernie Lee McGahey. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate, silent, or the off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman to allow for sufficient time for all speakers. Today, I'm very honored to have for our prayer and invocation the senior pastor of Free Will Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Bassett. Pastor Bassett, please stand.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, oh God, we come to you, oh God, asking you to continue to be merciful, oh Lord. Lord, we ask that you let your spirit fall in this place. Give us the right temperament. Give us the right spirit as we handle this business, oh God. And Lord, we ask you for resolve. And Lord, if we can't get resolved, Lord, give us endurance. Because you said in your word that the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but he that endures to the end. So God, I pray for these county commissioners. I pray for this county of Escambia County, oh God. I pray for our students, oh Lord, who just went back to school. I pray for the administrators, oh God, that you'll give them the right spirit to lead, oh God. I pray for the teachers, oh Lord, that you'll be able to give them what they need to teach, Lord. And I pray for the parents, Lord, that they'll assist and the parents will be parents. And I pray for the students, oh God, that they'll be teachable, oh Lord. And Lord, if we do that, we'll have a better year than we had on last year, God. Lord, don't let this prayer be as the Pharisees, oh God, where it illuminates one person's sin, Lord, but hide the multitude of others. Lord, we all are rich undone, God, and need work. So, Lord, I pray right now that, God, you'll clean us up and that we'll respect one another. And, Lord, that you'll let your spirit move, Lord, and we will move this agenda, move this county, move this city, oh Lord, and we'll get Satan a black eye. And I thank God for that right now in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, you said that the truth is what'll set us free, God. Not what man wants, not what man say, but Lord, so let what needs to be taught be the truth, oh God, and not what we think is the truth, oh God, because we know that the truth will set us free. Now, God, bind us together in love, Lord, because we are one. And we just thank you right now for everything that you're doing, everything that you're going to do. And Lord, we claim it done right now in the mighty name of Jesus. And all God's people say it.
Amen. Amen. Commissioner Bay, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Pastor Bassett, and thank you, Commissioner Berry. And Claire, don't worry about turning your phone to vibrate silence or the offsetting. I mean, just turn the ringer up during prayer. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
No, sir.
Nothing for me?
No, sir.
I have none. Yes. Good, we have none. Chair will entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda as printed.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second. I was adding.
That passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Commissioners Forum. Commissioner Bagash, I know that you had a lovely dinner with all of our mayors last night. I was not invited, but I know that you had some special guests, so I'll give it to you at this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's my honor and privilege to recognize a couple of gentlemen who've traveled to our area from out of the area. They are intimately associated with homebase.org, which is an organization, and I'm going to invite them up with the board's approval to give us just an update.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
So without further ado, Mr. Michael Allard, who's a Chief Operating Officer, and Armando Hernandez, who runs the Fort Myers branch. They're going to come up and tell us a little bit about it. And welcome to our community, and thank you for coming down, and thank you for what you do for veterans.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Vargas, Commissioner May, and to all the commissioners of Escambia County. My name is Mike Allard. I'm the founding staff member of Home Base, which has a great origin story. It was founded by Mass General Hospital and the Boston Red Sox, and it was done so because of a startling fact that we continue to live with today. 20 veterans every day die by suicide. And although we lost 7,070 members of our services since 9/11, over 125,000 have died by suicide since that time. And so for us at home base, we recognize that it's not good enough about what's being done today, and that the private sector, and particularly healthcare organizations in the private sector, need to be doing something more to be able to wrap our hands around this. The VA has been charged with this responsibility, and they do have this responsibility, but frankly, one organization can't do it alone. And so Home Base started back in 2009 to be able to muster some of the best that healthcare has to offer, and to get rid of the bureaucracy that our veterans often face when they're trying to get life-saving care. So we founded this program. It's a national program. We've served over 35,000 veterans and their family members, all at no cost. Everything that we do is to make sure that we can bring the very best world-class care to them in a healing environment in which the family member is included. Although we started in Boston, we have operations here in Florida. We've expanded to Arizona, and we're also expanding to Montana later this year. I'm going to turn to my great colleague, Armando Hernandez, who's our Florida program leader, to talk to you a little bit about what we've done here and what we're thinking about to see if this community can benefit from the work that we've done so far.
Thank you, Michael.
Good morning, everyone. As Michael said, my name's Armando Hernandez. I'm a Florida native, born and raised. Went off to the Marine Corps, and after I came back from the Marine Corps, I decided to come back to Florida because I love it here so much. And so I've been with Home Base for about 10 years now, and I've been helping lead the charge here on the ground in Florida. And what that means is we've worked very hard to develop a community empowerment model to help communities take care of their veterans. So by partnering with healthcare organizations, universities, community mental health centers, we've been able to help these communities develop what we call veteran-centered care. And there's a lot that goes into veteran-centered care, but just to quickly touch on it, veteran-centered care means you have clinicians who have the training and the experience to deliver the latest and greatest in evidence-based trauma therapies. They need to be culturally competent. They need to understand the issues that this population is facing. They need to provide care in a quick and timely access, right? Veterans can't wait 60 days to see a clinician. They need to be able to do it at absolutely no cost. The veterans have already earned this with their service, and so for us, it's very important that there's absolutely no cost associated with that. It needs to have the wraparound services that go along with behavioral health, such as case management, med management, substance use. And it needs to involve the family members, both in the veterans' care and individually for their own care. And so over the past 10 years, we've been working in Naples and Fort Myers and Tampa to deliver these programs and partnerships with Lee Health, David Lawrence Center, and Tampa General Hospital. And we're very excited about the potential of coming to Escambia County and developing similar partnerships to help take care of our veterans and their family members. So with that said, I'll stop. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Armando, it was a great dinner last night, meeting you folks and hearing from our current mayor, former mayor, and some other leaders that were in the room. I love the idea of this service coming to our community. You know, of all the congressional districts in the United States, we have the highest concentration of military veterans here in this area. So I just want, for my vote out of 5, like I expressed at dinner last night, you know, being the son of a military man and a brother that serves, 2 of my 3 kids serve. I want to do whatever I can to help your organization because we can use that service here in Escambia County. It's desperately needed, and I certainly hope the rest of your meetings bear fruit this week. I know that you're meeting with Representative Salzman, representatives from the hospitals through the rest of the week, so hope you enjoy your time down here and hope that it's very fruitful. And if I can do anything from this board, I will certainly bring it because I think it's a service we could use in our community. So thank you for being here. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing them to come and speak.
Absolutely. Anytime that we're bringing jobs and economic development, Commissioner, we want to be a part. Commissioner Kohler?
Mr. Chairman, if I can just ask a couple questions. This is great. Devil Dog, you probably understand the same language. Corwin up, I appreciate that, what you're doing. I do have a question, though. What's the difference between what you do and like Veterans Choice or some of these other groups that would go out that we already have access to? And, you know, the VA is actually moving into building inpatient mental health in the next couple of years. That's already been on the radar screen. They told me that the other day. So I guess I'm wondering what scope are you going to do other than access to care that would enhance the care for a veteran?
Yep, it's a great question. So one of the challenges that we have, particularly with the post 9/11 generation of veterans, is that less than 30% of veterans are actually accessing the VA for any type of care. So when you get down to mental health care, those numbers go into the single digits. And so we've got a challenge, right or wrong, perception, whether it's earned or not, the veterans just are not accessing the VA in a manner that they could and they should. And so that needs better solutions. In terms of choice and now the Community Care Network Act that is employed, the challenge is that if a veteran is to go to that private sector facility, they always still have to go through the VA. So the VA is the referral. It's not like we see in the private sector. If you have insurance, you could just go see a mental health provider. You don't have to check with your primary care physician. You don't have to check with your insurer. You can just go see that provider. With the VA, you always have to go through them. And so what we see is the referrals to those choice programs or the Community Care Network are actually quite suppressed, and it's not really happening.
How are you getting reimbursed? I guess that's the follow-up question.
Yeah, so we are funded almost predominantly by philanthropy. So it's really a grateful nation, and that was intentional. We did not want to set ourselves up based on reimbursements because, frankly, the insurance reimbursements for mental health care are quite low. It's not a moneymaker, that's for sure, and it's often limited. You can only get 8 sessions, 10 sessions. So for us, we wanted to develop new models of care that allowed us to be able to do what is really required without regard to that insurance. If they have insurance, we'll bill it, but it usually is never enough.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to add that, again, Homebase treats both the veterans and family members. We believe that when a veteran serves, those invisible wounds don't stop at the veteran, right? They permeate the parents, they permeate the spouse, the children. And so that's something that the VA unfortunately doesn't have the ability to do, is treat these spouses, treat these children, and that's something that Homebase can do. And then as well as, some of the great ability that we've had is really training the clinicians in the county, right? And so we get to leverage Mass General Harvard and really that huge psychiatric department that's been tackling these issues for many, many years and really advance the clinician training and the clinician knowledge in these communities in a very quick time so that they're treating veterans at the highest level.
I want to say thank you. I worked in military health care for 33 years. This is great, and I even like it more when you're saying it's philanthropy. That's hard to believe because there's so many competing interests. So thank you very much. That's great, honestly.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Michael. So much. Nice to meet you, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future, and hopefully we get a branch up here in Pensacola area. That's great. Right on, guys. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, again, I appreciate your allowing me this
Thank you for your leadership. I mean,
Well-
I know that the former mayor, he has late dinners, and it's hard to get up on early morning when you hang out
Man,
with
let me
him.
tell you what, it was late night, but it was worth it. Good stuff. I also wanted to point out the Longleaf Weimar Bridge. 1 week ago today, we opened that bridge before school started. That was a goal, and I appreciate the engineering department, McInnes Construction, Panhandle Grading and Paving, and getting that done. And the rest of that road's going to be completed by the end of the year. I want to thank staff. Had a rather contentious meeting out in the field with residents of Pine Valley Estates. There's a few issues over there with drainage that have been decades in the making, and we're desperately trying to solve it. But we had a few hiccups, but I appreciate staff's efforts out there, and we're still working that problem. I also want to remind everyone that a week from tomorrow, the 24th, at 6 p.m. At Beulah Middle School, we will have our kickoff meeting for the Beulah Master Plan. We got it funded, we got it awarded. Sigma Consulting is going to run that. And the community is invited. We want your input. That community, a community where I've lived for 20 years, it has exploded with growth. A lot of us believe that the growth has outrun the ability of the infrastructure to handle it. So what we're trying to do is find a better way forward, a more intelligent way to grow it, and we're going to do that with a community-driven master plan. So we look forward to that. And again, I want to thank Armando Hernandez and Michael Allard from Homebase for coming to Pensacola, looking at our area for their program. Their program is very good. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bagash. Commissioner Kohler?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing? I want a few things I want to just share. I think most people on the board know, but yesterday Senator Scott was in town. He was here to go look at the base. He had a meeting down here, a small group meeting, roundtable, I guess you could call it, at Bodacious to talk about the base and talk about some of the things that's going on in Washington, D.C. I saw some of the men that were there yesterday or here in the audience. I'm going to just say what he said. He didn't realize Herbert Field was under attack, that they were going to lose that. He asked everyone in the room to treat it the same way they did with the museum. If you know people on the House Armed Services Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the threat's real. It's a political thing, and it shouldn't be for either Democrats or Republican, but it is. But I spent a lot of time with his national security advisor yesterday afternoon, and we talked about multiple different things. But I want to thank him for taking the interest, seeing with the base CO, and trying to do things that we can fortify the base. Okay, let's move to Chris Jones. Chris Jones wrote a very nice letter that we all received about housekeeping. I wish I would have done it. I want to say thank you for the work that the staff does to clean this place up, and that was very nice that Chris Jones, our property appraiser, put that out for the staff. Hassan Real, I had the opportunity the other day, if you don't know, I was in Marino Court, I think it was last Thursday, school, and if you don't know Hassan, he was a convicted felon that's changed his life. He's committed to helping poor kids, and so I become good friends with him. But he was at Marina Court. We were handing out book bags, and his mission and goals for our community, specifically District 2 and District 3, can't be understated. I want to thank Mr. Hogan, Mr. Rhodes, and Clara. Last night, finally, we got into Lexington Terrace. We had about 22 people show up for the first meeting there, and it was well received, and thank you for that. And then on a little bit of levity, today's a big day for millions of people across the world. You may or may not know this, but when I say it, the only vacation I ever took in my life was a pilgrimage to go from Colorado to North Carolina, and on that trip, we stopped at Graceland. And so that was where I was around 1981 or 1982. And so today is the anniversary of Elvis's death. He would have been 88 years old. Many of us have sang karaoke songs, and his music's transcend cultures all over the world. I've sang Elvis songs in Japan. I can't even tell you, but for me, I love his music. It went across cultures, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Kohler. And Commissioner Kohler, I do want to thank Chris, and I was going to say that as well. And I want to thank our staff. I often say your custodial staff, janitorial staff is just as important as your admin staff. And for years, we contracted it out. And now you have people who work for the county who take pride in what they're doing. And I think that's the difference. And I do give our facilities in West and Rob credit for bringing that in-house, and Donald Knight and all of his staff. I do appreciate all of our custodial staff, because if you don't have a clean restroom, what do you have? You know what? You're not going to make good decisions. So we should value all of our employees, and we should particularly, and I'll take this plug, we should figure out ways in which we're going to pay them more money because they provide an essential service. And so we may not make it in this budget cycle, but we're certainly going to continue to advocate for those people to have livable wages. Commissioner Bender.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to keep it short. I just want to recognize our public safety. I know probably last night, in the last couple of weeks with the heat, we had the storms coming through last night. I know there were a number of lightning strikes on structures. The city had a big fire last night at the scrapyard. And so just recognize them and thank them for all their hard work that all of our public works, public safety employees do out there in this heat. So just want to recognize them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank Wes for going out to Farm Bureau, meeting with me Monday evening, and hearing some of the Farm Bureau board concerns and kind of issues related to some stuff in the further north end. Want to it's a week to celebrate, because of action that this board took, and bringing some really good partners on board with the Escambia River Electric Co-op and Connexon Group. They lit the first set of houses in the Bratt community earlier this week onto the broadband fiber program. That's fantastic. We have a contract with EREC for the execution of the build out and the getting the whole fiber infrastructure built. They're ahead of schedule, and it's really exciting to think that it's not going to be a few more months, and we're going to have 4,500 houses and businesses on broadband fiber with 650 miles of fiber, 200 and something miles in the ground, 450 miles aerial. And it's just driving up to the area where they were turning the first ones on Monday morning. You know, I saw five or six work trucks between EREC work trucks, Connection work trucks. And it's amazing what can happen when there's people actually out on the road doing the work. So that's very exciting. Also want to thank Wes and the staff. And there's been a lot of projects for District 5 on the agenda recently, and folks are excited about getting those on the ground and getting those going. And Joy Blackman and Chris Phillips have both worked very hard trying to put some solutions in place. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. I certainly want to recognize our elected officials that are here, Allison Patton, Councilwoman, and Charles Bear, Councilman. Welcome to our meeting. We're glad that you're here. Thank you both for being here. I do want to recognize our PIO department, Dave and Amanda, and all of our PIO. We've had a busy summer, whether it was clothes giveaway, book giveaway, food giveaways, after-school programs. I mean, we run around literally every day in District 3 trying to service the youth and the kids, and our PIO department has been great. They have, in the last moment, been able to create things, and they just really serve with passion in partnering with Claire in our after-school program, our summer programs, our summer employment programs. They get the message out, and so I certainly want to thank our PIO and Dave and his department because they've worked extremely hard. I want to thank Wes, Debbie Bowers, Joy Blackman, Rob, all of Horace for a long time coming. Delano Area Drainage, I want to thank PIO for covering that, and to all of the staff that came out. That's going to be a major drainage project that, quite frankly, since we have our council people here, that it's going to look better than Corrine Jones. We're going to have walking tracks, ponds, but we did model it after you guys, but we certainly want to take it to another level, something that the entire county can be proud of. And so, Wes, we do appreciate you and your engineering, your public works, and your entire staff for pushing that along. And finally, I want to thank Wesley Hall and Claire Long. We're really moving forward with the affordable housing, and looks like we're going to have 15 to 20 houses in the hopper by the end of the year. So Wesley and Claire, thank you. And Wesley, I appreciate you really pushing that along this week. So with that, Wes, you have anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman of the board, I want to introduce you to your fire chief this morning. If Adam Harrison and Eric Gilmore would come up. I was very excited to make this selection. I'm excited about where we're going and under Adam's leadership. And he's grown up in the system, and he knows it backwards and forwards. He's passionate about it. And I told Eric, I said, I don't think we could have made a better selection. And so I just want to introduce him to the board this morning, give him a chance to say a few words.
Yeah, so Adam started Monday, was his first day on the job. He's already hit the ground running. Good thing about Adam is he's self-aware. He knows what's going on. So we don't have to spend 180 days or a year to read him in for him to catch up. No, he's ready to go. So, but I'll turn it over to Adam and let him say a couple of words to you guys.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity for me to lead the men and women of Escambia County Fire Rescue. As Director Gilmore said, I've been here for 30 years within the system. I started out as a volunteer, worked my way up through the ranks there, and served in multiple different positions to include a logistics officer. So I've worked with many of you before. I'm ready to hit the ground running and look forward to the next chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Chief. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks, Chief. And Wes, I know it's not permanent, but he's at Blue Arbor, but we've had a lot of success through our summer employment program. I think, Claire, we up to about 27 people who've gotten full-time jobs since the inception of the program. But I block by block and continue that program. I'm really happy that Claire's brought on the former fire chief of the city of Pensacola, Joe Glover, to head up our workforce and our block by block program. So, Joe, we're glad that you're here. We look forward to working with you and the great work that you did in the fire department out at Pine Forest with young people. So, welcome aboard, Joe. We appreciate it. With that being said, if there's nothing else.
Move the proclamations.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Commissioner Berry, and I think that's just ratifying, correct? We're all good. Did the clerk's office receive proof of publication for public hearings on the agenda in the board's weekly scheduled meeting?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs.
I move that we waive the reading of the notices.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Clerk and Comptroller's report.
Thank you, sir. There's only 2 items on the agenda. The June 2023 returns came in at $2.9 million, a slight decrease from last year, but very robust. We also have minutes and reports to file. Thank you, sir.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
Please vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Growth Management Report.
Yes, sir. For today, we have several action items. The first action item is a recommendation concerning Yard Harbor final plat.
Chair will entertain a motion. There are no speakers.
I'll move item 1, A and B in the affirmative.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Thank you so much, Horace.
Yes, sir. The next item is recommendation concerning a final plat known as Fairchild Village.
We have no speakers. Chair will entertain a motion.
I have discussion.
Oh,
sir.
okay.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I wanted to see what the board's appetite would be on extending the warranty agreements, either to a 2-year to a 5-year, and also about having the warranty start once the last townhouse or home is built. That way they, the ponds can be inspected at that time, be desilted, and then we have a well-working pond after construction. So I just want to check the board's appetite on that.
Joy, what do you think about that? I see you made your way to the podium.
And the experience that we've had recently is that with the collaboration with our building official, if we're running into any problems with the ponds silting over or not functioning as they should, building official is helping us by putting those permits on hold, no further inspections, no permits until that's resolved. Had good response in that thus far. The warranty does actually help us with the pond issue, but it's about the workmanship that's done during this construction. And if the contractor that builds the roads and ponds is not the same contractor that's building the homes, it's kind of holding the wrong person accountable. I don't know the specifics on this situation, but it's almost holding the wrong person accountable. While again, if it's Adams that's built it and Adams that's building homes, then it's the same person, same company. But so it can be helpful. But we've had pretty good luck lately with the way we manage it.
I think starting the clock at the, at the conclusion, I think there is some rationale to that. Especially if things were to slow down a little bit, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of spec. It doesn't appear that there's going to be a lot of spec buildings, spec houses being built right now. Even the large builders might not allow more than 3 or 4 or 5 specs on the ground at one time. I don't think they're going to build out a whole neighborhood and just wait for it to sell. So I think
that is a significant benefit in protecting your roadway infrastructure for sure.
Yeah. So Robert, I think starting the timeline at completion, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm open to maybe extending that warranty period. I don't know about going from 2 to 5, but what's going to happen if we've got just a 50 or 60 acre lot subdivision right now? It may be 18 months to 2 years to get built out anyway, because, especially if things do slow down a little bit. So starting the clock, if we only have a 2-year warranty that starts at the beginning, we're almost out of the warranty period by the time the last house is built. So
Exactly.
I agree with that. There is rationale to that. And
Do we want to go to 100% build out or a particular percentage you think that might be acceptable?
A large majority. I don't know that it has to be 100% because sometimes there's one or two lots in a
Right.
there's one or two lots in a platted subdivision that aren't, for whatever reason, aren't.
Nature Trail is probably not even fully built out.
Yeah, so I think the majority would be, you know.
There's still
some-
lots in the Whispers, 1 or 2.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you know, some majority number, maybe similar to what we do for MSBU's or something, where we got 75, 80% built out, something like that. Because there's, I mean, I got 50-year-old subdivisions around my house that aren't all the way built out. This one lot has an issue, this other lot has an issue, that kind of thing. But, no, I think they're both good ideas.
Yeah, I'm in full support, Robert, but just a couple of things I'm concerned about. You know, have you discussed this with anyone? I mean, or is this, I mean, you're just kind of bringing it to us for this initial
Yeah,
discussion?
I'm bringing it to y'all because really what it is right across the street from this property was where there was another subdivision that we had some issues with.
Sure.
You know, and you know, I think that, you know, I think this one could be a little bit better because there is some underground drainage on their side of the road where there wasn't on the south side of the road. You know, that's my concern is that it gets built out and, you know, there's sediment and things like that, so.
Just a couple of concerns. Like I say, I'm in support of it, but I think you know, I would be worried that, you know, if we just do this at the dais, you know, does that implicate some legal things? Because these builders have probably, you know, staged their project and budgeted it based upon what's in our land development code, what's in our current practice. So, I would support it. Like Commissioner Berry says, I like the idea. I've had multiple subdivisions in Beulah before the last house is built. You know, the ponds are failing. You know, we had to make them go rebuild a couple. They were engineered improperly, and then they were not built the way they were engineered. So I like the idea of a longer warranty period. I know the builders don't, but and I'm all for doing it. But I just think we got to follow the right process. And I see Allison chomping at the bit to speak. I think we got to make sure there's not legal implications, which just kind of doing something like this, Allison.
So, yeah, Allison, give us clarification.
So what I need to know, first of all, are you talking about for this one
Just this
instance? Or are you talking about always?
I think based on colleagues is that we would like to maybe look at it moving forward.
So these are contractual in nature, so for purposes of Fairchild, you can't unilaterally impose that on them. So this will need to be pulled so we can, you want to do it all as one parcel with their A, B, C, and D. You don't want to just hold out because then, you know, you're no longer having any carrot for them. So you need to drop Fairchild. We're going to need to go back to them and renegotiate the warranty for this particular one, and then we need to look at changing it going forward if you're wanting to do it for all.
Well, there's one right behind it too at Ransley Station.
But it doesn't have a 2-year warranty.
It sure does on the very end, same language and everything. So, and that's the other thing. I mean, you know, if we're gonna do it over here, I mean, I think in the interest of fairness, I mean, I love the protection of a longer warranty. I love the protection of not starting the warranty till the last few homes are built, but I want to make sure that, you know, we're doing it evenly. As you see, the very next item has that same language. So, can we legally impose this on the dais? Or
No,
does
these
that-
are
They're not
contracts.
identical.
These are contracts that these folks have executed. I just don't
He's talking
see
about
the
PDT
2-year
and
warranty on the Ramsey. It doesn't have it on mine.
Not Ransley.
I don't
Jeff,
have
you're not
it.
talking about Ransley Station. You're talking about the Perdita Key.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was looking up.
And Fairchild.
The one that we've already passed. I'm sorry. Yeah, my
What-
apologies.
Whatever y'all would like to do with those is, you know, fine with me.
Well,
Whatever you want, however you want to handle it.
Rob, what do you
I
want?
don't
You want
see
to
a
drop
C
it
and
and
a
come
D on that.
back?
I just see A and B.
Yeah.
The final plat and the street names.
Yeah, no. I was looking at the one above it, the Fairchild.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I don't
hang
see
on.
it there either.
Let me see. Okay, Ransley Station.
Regardless, we can't unilaterally make that decision today. As she
Correct.
said, we'd have to drop it, change the ordinance, and come back.
Robert, have you talked to Jim about it? No? Okay.
It's bilateral. These folks could certainly volunteer to do that, but to get it renegotiated and executed, we're going to need to pull at least Fairchild, and then we can look at what we need to do going forward to do it for all.
Well, in God, we trust. Everybody else needs a sign. I mean, I don't think that I'm going to think that a developer, I mean, in 5 years, most of those developers are gone. They're not in that subdivision anymore.
Why wouldn't the Old River have the warranty period in the item that we're adopting? Is it the size, is it the number of lots? The first.
The 17, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. We were discussing why the other ones
The
didn't
one
have
in the
warranty.
Perdita Key community didn't reference a warranty.
Private subdivisions
Gotcha,
would not
okay.
show a warranty, and Ransley already has a warranty associated with their first phase.
So I want to be, it has,
And Robert, you were right. I misread
Okay.
that. I misread that, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I don't want to, I want to be clear, it's nothing against this individual builder, you know, and I haven't talked to them. It was just something that we raised and wanted to discuss, so.
If you want to drop this and bring it back to the next board meeting, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if they have counsel here. I don't see principal here, but.
Sure. You want to move to drop it?
Yeah, I'm going to drop.
Yeah, I mean,
Second.
we can move the drop, hold on, Jeff, 1 second.
Yes.
I mean, we can move the drop it and ask council to go and try to renegotiate it, but I don't want to renegotiate in bad faith. And Robert, I certainly support where you're going, and I don't know the builder either, but it's kind of hard if they object. It's going to be difficult to hold them to this if they object. And so I don't know if in good conscience I could vote if they decided that they didn't want to do it. And so, I mean, Robert, I'll follow you. It's your district. I'll follow your lead.
No,
I mean, but if they say, you know, in good faith, we applied and we went through development review with this guideline and now we've changed the guidelines, I don't see how that's.
Hey, if one gets by or a couple get by, you know, but again, I think that's something that we should just work towards.
Oh, no, I agree with that. No,
So-
I'm with you on that. So,
But it doesn't hurt to ask.
well, I'll let you go entertain them with it because it's your district, Robert. But, so we'll entertain a motion to drop it.
We've got one.
We got one?
Yeah. Motion second. I
Second, all right, let's drop it. Passes 5 in favor, thank you. Horace?
Yes, sir. The next item is concerning a final plat approval for Rasley Station Phase 2.
No speakers.
I'll move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
A&B.
Passes 5 in favor, thank you. County Administrator's report. Do we want Wes to go through any of, all of them, or do you guys have some you want to pull, one of the ones with speakers? What's the wishes of my colleague?
I think we should, if they have speakers, then we should run the balance, unless you guys have stuff you want to pull. We've
I
all
don't-
gone through it.
I don't have any issue with anything on the technical
me
public
neither.
service consent.
So do we have any speakers on it? on this?
Mr. Chairman, I got to pull.
Seven has one speaker.
Okay, so let's move the balance in, Wes, and hold 7.
I want to hold 15.
Hold 50.
Hold 7 and 15.
All right, I move the balance.
Second.
That passes 5 in favor, thank you. Wes?
Car 1-7, Glenn Conrad.
Madam Attorney, we're only scheduling a public hearing, so the comments have to be on the scheduling of the public hearing?
You can certainly take a comment. I know
Okay.
he's on the Marine Advisory Committee. They did discuss this ordinance at their meeting earlier this week. So
correct.
it's
Okay.
totally legitimate to take a speaker. Also, we wanted to have enough authorization from you all that when we advertise this item, that we have a little bit of leeway from the language that's in your backup, because we had some law enforcement comments about this ordinance, so we wanted to have a little bit of leeway in what gets advertised as the title.
Okay. Glenn Conrad, 17 Northwest Gilliland. And as Attorney Rogers mentioned, I am on the Marine Advisory Committee. However, today I am speaking for myself, just for myself. I want to express support for the proposed publication of this ordinance and the public review of it. Currently, as a floating structure ordinance, as opposed to vessels in the waterways, we do not have an ordinance that covers these types of structures. Several other counties in the state of Florida do. St. Johns County has a particularly effective one, and I would propose that this be gone forward for public review, perhaps some modifications as the public sees fit and the legal authorities see fit, and then we come back to this. So I'm in support of publishing this as a review for the public. This is something that goes statewide. We don't have the same problem here that some of the counties in South Florida do, but this is a lead turn or an ability for Escambia County to get ahead of a potentially very serious problem to our waterways. So that's it. Subject to any questions? I guess the last comment is I would like to compliment the county staff on taking the initiative to draft this kind of a thing and present it to you. So that's it.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion.
Move the item.
Second.
Passes 5-0. Wes? Oh, Commissioner Kohler.
Yes,
you want-
Commissioner Kohler,
Yeah, I'm
number
sorry.
15.
All right, number 15. All right, good day. I want to talk about this, and it's not really, I think I'm probably different than anyone up here. But this is the third time this has been on the agenda. And Madam Clerk, I think it's because you wanted it on the agenda. And I've been told that it's because the rate. Now, I have a difference of opinion on this. There's 3 plans. There's the pension plan, there's the investment plan, and then there's the SMS plan. And my problem is, I think whatever the board votes for, the clerk should honor. I do, Pam. But I also think the rate's not right. And I'll tell you why. If I was a senior management person here, I would take that. That's your every right. You should. I would take it as well. But I'm a county commissioner, and I have to make policy that reflects fairness across all 2,000 employees. And that's why I have a problem with the rate. And I know the board probably will vote for this rate, but I think eventually, after the court case is done, we're going to have a talk and see where we should end up. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion. I don't know where we're going to end up. I don't think anyone does. The judge has been waiting on the other piece. But I do think, after reflectively looking at this, this is something that, as a Simeo, I consider such a disparity that it's almost, it's a form of I hate to use this word, but employee discrimination. We have different discriminations. You know, ways looking at racial and sexual and religious. We have them for people that are overweight. We have them for status. We have them for short people. We have them for a lot of different things, and we don't recognize those. I want everyone in the county to feel valued and have the best retirement program. But the fight is to have people get the best wage, and then everyone get the fair retirement that they can. And since this isn't open to everybody in the county, I can't support this rate.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I do agree with you on one thing, Commissioner Kohler. We have a contract, and every 6 years or so we have to renew it. We did that last year. So the necessity for this to be on the agenda, I agree. It didn't need to be. I don't know why it is, but it is, so I'm going to vote for it. The thing that the people in the audience need to know is these rates are statewide. Every county, every city is subject to these rates. These rates are set by the state. We have no control of them. I've been in the FRS system since 2006. Every year they change. Some years, the contribution amount for an elected class in their investment plan goes very, very low, but less than 10%. Unfortunately, a lot of these rates reflect the losses in the pension plan for various reasons and the necessity to keep that pension plan solvent. I mean, unlike Social Security, which is not solvent, the Florida retirement system is, and it's because of these retirement rates. Now, we can argue all day long about whether this employee deserves this plan, but the fact of the matter is, this is all set by the state. The state sets, for instance, these high-risk categories for certain, folks that are first responders, and I'm fully in support. They do dangerous work. They should get a bump, and they do. They get a better retirement than someone who, say, is a janitor. But I will say this, if you're a member of the Florida retirement system, whether it's on a school board, whether it's for a local government, it is a fantastic plan. And Mike, I would disagree with you. I think it's a fantastic plan for all the employees who take advantage of it. When we talk about a thing like drop at the end of someone's career, I knew when I was on the school board, many teachers, husband and wife teams, that when they got the drop at the end of their 30 or 35-year career, they were able to pay off their cars, their houses, their credit cards, and have a tremendous retirement. So, you know, if you want the highest retirement benefit, you have to go work in those fields that the state allows a higher benefit. But to say it's not fair, I just completely 100% disagree with that. It's, you go, if you want to get the highest rate, go be a firefighter, go be a sheriff. But to demonize the entire system is wrong. It's a good system. And to, you know, and to create some kind of a ruckus over that, this is all set by the state, Mike.
I partially agree with you. It seems like, Jeff, you and I are always in good battle, so I appreciate that. So I like metrics. So if you work for the, that's what metrics are for, so we can make good decisions. So anyone that's been part of the FRCA plan, you get one of these little cards. This is what it is. And it tells you what's good if you're in the investment plan, if you're indifferent between the two, and in the retirement plan. Now, the retirement plan obviously has a higher percentage, as we've said. But if you look at that, the investment plans pay better. Out of the 30-year-olds to 60-year-olds, 47% between those 5 age groups get a better investment, 22 are indifferent, only 11 should take the pension plan. I agree 100% on special risk. They absolutely, the people, they're firefighters and the correctional officers and the deputies, all that, they deserve, they're putting their lives on the line. My problem is, it's not I'm demonizing, I think that it's great that we have pensions. It's just that not everyone's offered those rates. That's the problem under the SMS. We only offer it to a small people. I absolutely agree with you, it's good for everyone. I just don't think that, I just don't think it's fair.
Well, and I appreciate that, Mike, but the bottom line is if you start off in, say, a janitorial position or out of the roads crew, you're not going to qualify for those big rates. But if you work a career here, many of those people do work their way up into a place where they're going to earn those higher rates, and that's part of it. It's a merit-based economic system. And so, no, we can't afford to pay the entry-level groundskeeper or janitor, or you name the department, the senior management rate. But that comes with 25, 30 years. That's the way the world works. That's the way America works. You didn't walk into the Navy and become a captain the first day you were in there. You worked an entire career to become an 06, a captain, and receive those tremendous emoluments. So, you know, again, you know, we can agree to disagree, but that's the way the system works, and it's set by the state.
Pay and benefits, two different things. A janitorial person should have the same benefit plan. They won't have the same pay. You're right. When I went as an E1, I didn't have the same pay as I did as an 06. It was, the computation was based on time and service, the same way that the specialists get higher. The difference I have here is between the benefit plan, not the pay is always going to be different. We're never going to get to complete equity on that, ever.
Well, Mike, if we're talking about benefits, you could be a janitor in this district. You're getting Blue Cross benefits. You're getting the same benefits. So I don't understand what you're saying. You get the same medical benefits, the exact same, if you pay for them.
You're splitting hairs now. We're going into medical care. I'm talking about the benefit plan that if you, and this is the contribution levels, I'll give this to everyone. If you're in the SMS and the firefighters, since you brought those up, we'll use them. If you were to get the same thing as the SMS, instead of, say, the investment plan, which is 16, you'd get 32%. We don't do that.
Well, again, you have to go in those careers. People make those choices when they pick which careers they want to go in. I mean, there are some careers, they make a higher rate like that, but they also have a very, very short work horizon, 25 to 30 years, based upon all the, you know, the risks and hazards of the job and the stress. So, I mean, you know, you make a choice when you decide to enter the workforce, and I believe in free choice. If you want to make that highest rate, go be a firefighter. Go get them, and you can be retired at 50 with a full pension.
Commissioners, with all due respect, we've certainly deviated from what the agenda item is.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm certainly happy to put it on the agenda to have a discussion. Why was this on the agenda? As Jeff said, it didn't need to be, because it sparked hits, and politically, this is a good thing to talk about. That's all it is. And so now we're not even talking about the issue at hand. We talked about it for 3 or 4 years. It's in litigation, and the courts will decide as it relates. And I agree that everybody should be paid the same. I'm happy to have this conversation, but I'm not going to continue to have a debate about something that's not on the agenda. Robert.
Yeah, Madam Attorney, under FRS, are we allowed to offer this plan to all of our employees, or is it only specific on who we can offer this plan to?
The plan is intended as a replacement for the very narrow group of people that the FRS statutes and rules allowed to be either exempted out, opted out, or unqualified to participate in FRS.
So we could not offer this to every employee because, even if we
No.
wanted to, because we are a member of FRS, is that correct?
That is my understanding of the Florida law.
And listen, you know, Mike, I don't disagree with you. I would much rather try to go into our own retirement system, get out of FRS, and pay those same rates to our employees that set it by FRS. I mean, that's the thing. Because again, so much of even what we pay for the firefighter and the janitor go to pay the people in the pension plan to make sure it's solvent. So, you know, but right now, we don't have the option to offer it to everybody.
I completely understand what you're saying. My point is that we have a small group of people. I'll close with this. I won't exhaust this anymore. But I think it needs to be noted, and this may be good for anyone out there in the media, find one other county in the state of Florida that offers this rate. And anyone on this board knows it? I can't find one. And I know that the highest one is they're at this rate.
There are elected officials, there are...
Not at this rate.
Yes.
Name which county? Name one.
There are constitutionals that are taking it.
At this rate?
Yes.
Tell me one county, Robert.
Well, y'all put it, hey, who shot John? I don't really care. It's legal. Y'all can have this debate whenever y'all want to have
County.
it.
DeSoto County.
So,
At what rate, Pam?
We're going to call the question. We'll entertain a motion in a second. I mean, if we want another item to be added to the agenda, make the agenda item, and then we'll talk about it. I mean, ain't a lot to write about in Pensacola, so maybe this is something we can write about. We'll entertain a
Move
motion.
the item.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, please vote. Wes?
Mr. Chairman, there are 34 items on the Budget Finance Consent Agenda. There are no changes, and there are no speakers.
Anybody want to hold anything else?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Budget and Finance.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on card 3 for discussion, item number 1 is a recommendation concerning proposed 2023 applications for the Resilient Florida Program. I'll ask-
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I apologize. I need to, can we rescind the Budget and Finance or rescind number, can we rescind number 34, please? I want to make an edit to it. It's Robert's on-bikes discretionary. I want to add $1,000 to that.
Where is that
So
at?
it's item number 34 in the Budget and Finance. So I move.
I make a motion, we rescind our
Second.
action.
You're rescinded. I need to add something to Robert, too. Sorry, I missed that.
So we got a motion, second on that?
Yep. All right.
So please vote. Let's rescind it. Pass 5-0 to
Thank you,
rescind
Mr.
it.
Chairman. I'd like to add $1,000 from District 5 discretionary to Robert's 1,000 for on-bikes. Did you want to add something?
I'll add 2,000, Robert.
All right, and Commissioner, and I move to.
Commissioner Bagash, is it?
Yeah, I'm gonna add 1,500.
All right, $1,500 from District 1 discretionary and $2,000 from District 3 discretionary to the item.
Please vote.
Second.
Thank you. I don't have that much, Mike. I think I've only got 1,500.
Thanks, Commissioner Perry. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 under discussion is recommendation concerning proposed 2023 applications for the Resilient Florida Program. I'll ask Chip Skersville to come and give just a brief informational.
Good morning, Commissioners. This agenda item deals with applications for the Resilient Florida Program. That's an annual program that the county has fortunately been able to take advantage of the last few years with several grants funded. The reason this is on the agenda is because there is local match required for these grants in the Resilient Florida Program, and our grant manual requires authorization from the board to submit grant applications that do require match. The full intent is for staff to procure that match from other grant funding sources. so that there would be no impact on the local budget.
All right, Chips, the numbering for the applications is not a ranking in the applications, correct?
It's not a ranking.
Okay, all right. I move the item if there's not a lot of discussion.
Can I ask a quick question? And what's the match? Is it 50/50?
It is 50/50.
Okay.
But we already have match for some of the projects, and the others we will work on during the next year to get that match from other grant sources.
Second.
Please vote.
Vote yes.
We got you. You can still hit it, Jeff.
It didn't come
It's
up.
gone.
Mine didn't come up.
Are we good?
We're good. I'll raise my hand, because I'm sure.
All right, we'll be 5 in favor then.
I got that from Lumen.
I appreciate you using it, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to keep using it. I like it. I like to see who gets it.
It's delayed sometime, but eventually somebody gets it.
Typically.
Horace will get it every time.
Everyone over 50 understands.
All right. Horace, I mean, well,
We good?
yeah.
Item number 2 is concerning the REAP lodges closure discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes.
I asked-
How many speakers, Jeff, hold on one second, please. How many speakers do we have? Okay, Jeff, you only have 2 speakers, but go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah. Look, guys, I brought this letter hit my mailbox like yours Monday morning. I remember a few months back, there was a request made for some funding, and then it just, boom, came to this. We're going to close in 2 weeks. So, look, I want to hear from my board members. Obviously, this is something we have to discuss up here. We can't just freelance it on our own. But I don't want to see women and children turned out on the street. I'm unhappy that we have to wait till 2 weeks till closure that this comes and that we're under duress. So I want to understand, is Vinny here? I didn't see him. Is he here?
He is not here.
He's not here. Okay, so I had a lot of questions for him. How do you let your budget get to a point where you got 2 weeks left to who are you? Yeah.
My name is Richard Lynch. I'm the Director of Operations
For the lodges?
for Reentry Alliance Pensacola.
Okay, can I ask him some questions? You guys good?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, I think your concerns are valid.
Yeah, so let me ask you something. How much does it cost a month to run that place?
About $27,000.
$27,000. And how much have you got from the city thus far for your operations?
We got $200,000 at the beginning of the year.
Okay. And you charge $10 a night for the people that stay?
Yes, but that's not enough to cover the cost of the lodges.
Of course it isn't. What other organic fundraising have you done? My understanding was you guys were getting a little money to get you pushed off the shore, and then you're going to go out and do your fundraising and have some other methods of support, faith-based fundraising. So how much money have you raised?
Not enough to run the lodges. We get funding from Opening Doors.
Okay.
We got $200,000 from them, roughly. But that runs all of our facilities. It runs our homeless camp, which we don't get funding for at all. It runs the respite center, which is houses about 75 people per night, and it also runs the lodges.
So what's the long-term strategy to remain viable? I mean, it can't be coming to the government for money to run the shelter. I mean, obviously we have a nice amount of money that we've already voted to apportion in different various fields, but I mean, how do you stay solvent? Is there a way to do it without the necessity for coming to us for money?
There isn't.
There is no way.
No. Most of our funding comes from federal grants, county grants, and state grants.
Yeah. Well, okay, so $27,000 a month to keep that thing open.
Yes, sir.
And how many people are you housing?
Roughly 40, 45 a night.
What happens if this thing closes?
They'll have to find some other place to go.
Hey,
All
Jeff,
right.
can I?
Yeah, please.
How much of that's in salaries?
Say again?
How much of the 27,000 is in salaries? Because I
Most
think
of
some of the funding we have, like only 10% of it could be used towards salaries, and so that's why I'm asking.
I'm not sure how much goes towards salaries.
So you have what, rent's 5,000?
Rent's 5,000, utilities, food, and all other expenses that we use, and then salary.
Okay.
Well, Mr.
So in
Chairman,
essence, it costs $675 a month per person for them to live there?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I just appreciate you, we put it on the agenda, and I just appreciate you being here to speak on it. But again, may I just ask, why were we not given at least, 60, 90 days? Like, hey, we're going to run out of cash. I mean, why a 2-week? Because a lot of people have said, look, you've got a gun held to your head. You're the bad guy if you don't fund them. I'm never going to put myself in that position.
And I know that Mr. Wibbs has been emailing and calling and making requests for funding because our funding's been running low. We've depleted all of our reserves from the nonprofit because we get funding for other places, FDOC to run the REAP program.
Sure.
And all that stuff. So all of our reserves, we're down to the bare bones.
Didn't you get money from the Continuum of Care, John Johnson's?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was from Opening Doors, and that's all reimbursable funding, so we have to spend the money to get the money.
Okay, understood. So if this board does not fund you, what's the plan? Can you locate some of these other folks to your
We will relocate as many as we can over to the respite center and wherever else we can put them.
What's your budget like over there?
That costs more to run than the lodges.
But I mean, are you still viable over there? Do you have a funding source?
We're still looking for funding, trying to get funding from the
Okay, let me ask you a question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot or make you feel bad, but how many months till we get the panicked
That I'm
email
not
from?
sure of. Vinny hasn't.
6 months, 3 months? Don't know.
Probably not that long at all.
Okay, well, there's some issues here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So you said for the respite center, you get county fund. What's the rent there? Your rent at this existing building is $5,000 a month?
Yes, sir.
That's to the Salvation Army?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to them about possibly reducing or waiving that?
Vinny has, and they're supposed to have a meeting next week to discuss that.
Okay. Well, for me, I mean, I don't want to see anybody out, but I know we got Feeding the Gulf Coast. I quite frankly, I worked for Salvation Army for 20-some years. I would hope that they would work with you on the rent. I mean, for me to support, I'd like to figure out what the unmet need is and how do we sustain it long-term. So in my opinion, it's $675, almost $700 a month for a person. I mean, we got to find the self-sufficiency for that. I mean, I'd rather have them in public housing at some point or somewhere. I mean,
Public housing is limited as well.
I'm the chair of the area housing. I get it, but I can just tell you, most of our people don't pay $675 a month for rent. Probably the average rent is about $200, a month for most of the people that live in our area housing with their subsidies. So we have a problem.
There's someone who can take this over, who can run it, and perhaps has the resources, like I've heard Bright Bridge, Mr. Chairman. Is that something that this board would, maybe a different organization needs to step in and that has perhaps different funding sources available? I mean, would that be something, if you're going to close in 2 weeks, unless we give you money, if another entity steps up in that period and says, we'll take it, what would you guys be amenable to, a handoff of some variety?
If that's what it takes. Yes.
Sorry.
I appreciate that.
Sorry.
I mean, I think, Jeff, I see where you're going, Jeff. I think you have a great point. There's probably never a way that government's going to be able to subsidize where you're going to need some type of philanthropy or some type of other income. I mean, at a last resort, I mean, I don't want to see people out. I mean, if we got to, Jeff, I mean, you brought this, if we got to stand up a temporary shelter with heat in one of our facilities and staff it, I mean,
We
I
could
would
do it
be
a lot
willing-
cheaper. We could do it cheaper than 27 grand.
Yeah, I mean, I would not want to, in the dire heat, I mean, we want something to happen for people. But as you just said, if we pay for it for 2 months, 3 months, what happens in the cold winter months? I mean, how do we, I think you just have to have a plan. And so I'm not Xing anything out. I mean, Vinny's a friend of mine. But we got to have a long-term plan. And to me, coming say, even my children came and said, Dad, I only got enough money for 2 weeks. I would say, what were you thinking 2 months ago? I mean, but I wouldn't leave them out to dry, but we'd have to have a plan. I mean, I think for me, I mean, we need to see the performer, the business plan, and how do we sustain this, and what are going to be those sources of income. I mean, I see 2 city council people here. I know they put some money in, but it has to be a collaborative effort. If not, we're just putting off the inevitable that, whether we're going to put people out in 2 weeks or we're going to put them out in 2 months or we're going to put them out, in 3 months. So with that plan, I mean, you'd find an opening ear for me to figure something out.
So-
Go ahead, Roger. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so you're saying 27,000 a month, which equals 162,000 for 6 months. The expense projection that we got yesterday said it was going to be $200,000 for 6 months, and the items with asterisk are only $59,000, which is the lease, utilities, repairs and maintenance, insurance, office supplies, and other. I mean, you could even throw in client needs of food supplies and soap at another $9,000, you know, so at $68,000 pays for everything except staff.
And we had,
So, and again, I mean, that's security, that's not just, it's not just, you know, executive level. I mean, it's
Right. I-
81,000 in security staff and kitchen staff for, you know, 365 days.
but as a county, I mean, we have the ability, I mean, feeding Gulf Coast, I mean, we ought to be able to provide, you know, we shouldn't even have a food cost. I mean, with feeding Gulf Coast, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can figure out, you know, how to help. My,
Mr. Chairman, I've toured both these buildings when I was on Health Authority before the one on Maxwell. I applaud your work over at the Salvation Army. I only had one complaint, was you have an industrial kitchen and you still bring food in. I didn't think that was helping people with their deals. But the root of the problem here is the financing and how much you're paying on Maxwell and Pensacola. The $20,000 a month is ridiculous. And that's why you guys are in the situation you're in. Have you guys tried to renegotiate that term?
Vinny's in talks with them both to try and reduce the rent.
Yeah, because
and Mike, you're right, I mean, you can't pay, and I don't even know who owns the building, but if you can't pay a for-profit company $20,000 a month for a building.
Right.
I mean, you do the math. I mean,
And
how
I
many
toured
people
that
do
building
housing?
before they refinished it. That's an excessive rent fee. I mean, it's excessive. So that's the first defense Vinny's got to go figure out why he negotiated a deal for $20,000 a month. I mean, it's just too much, in my opinion.
How much is it, Mike?
20,000 just for the Maxwell and Pensacola, and it's 5,000 for the one over at Sunder's Law.
That's the monthly rent?
Are there any more
20 or
questions
15?
for the gentleman? And thank you for
All
being,
right, just-
thank
just
you for being here.
It's the 15,000. 20,000 for both, 15 for one, 5 for the other.
For rent?
Yes.
So, and where I am, I don't think that these not-for-profits that are providing this essential service need to be paying rent, period. So for me, I mean, we have money. I would rather build them a facility and give it to them so they don't have the monthly rent of trying to make that note. I mean, that's something that, what we can do. I mean, we can build buildings, and we have capital money. We have money in the homeless shelter that we could build a building.
Now, Mr. Chairman, we're not going to meet again until apparently this deadline passes. I mean, our next meeting is not till after that, so far as I can tell from looking at the calendar. So was there some specific request that you were going to bring today?
My request would be well, Vinny wanted me to request funding, $200,000.
200,000?
$200,000.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. How much to get you limping along for another 6, I mean, seriously, without, I mean, strip down, bare bones, just pay the light bill, pay the rent, I guess, to get you going for a couple of
Well, I
months?
think they could negotiate the rent, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to put any of these women and children out.
But Jeff, my question is the lodges is $5,000 a month. That's the women and children.
Right.
That's the one that's in closing.
Jeopardy.
The Maxwell Respite Center, which is the $15,620 a month, that's not in jeopardy of closing.
Not right at this moment, no.
No, but he just said they're on the same trajectory.
I understand that, but.
But he's in on the same trajectory, but it's the same
rent-
organization.
The rent for the one that's going to close is $5,000.
Yeah, I know.
I'll do something. For the women children's one, which I think is good, I don't mind putting $5,000 in my discretionary funds for that, for 1 month. But you guys got to renegotiate the rent. I mean, so I'll do that for 1 month to keep it open till you guys work some stuff out, because I've been there, I've talked to those people, I know what's going on. But this situation, there needs to be some financial advisors or guidance or something going on to get this right.
Is that a motion, Mike?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to put 5,000.
Okay, hey, hold. We have 2 other speakers. Let's take those speakers, and then we'll entertain the motion. Who's the first speaker?
Yeah.
Jennifer Grant.
Yeah, you haven't. Tightwad. I don't want kids and women being put out.
Thank you so much for caring about the women. I know they don't have a say in where the money goes, where the money comes from, or what happens. They just have a say in where they're going to lay their head at night and where they're going to sleep. And there's 20% of the ladies are here today, just so you can see them and see that they're trying their hardest to get back on their feet. These women have been beat up and they have suffered a lot in life, and they just want to get back on their feet. And if their housing gets taken out from them, they have nowhere else to go. They're at the shelter because there is nowhere else for them. And so they really need somebody to be on their side to help them. And so I appreciate listening to the concern that you guys have for them and the suggestions that you're making, but they shouldn't be punished because there's not enough money. And I just want to make a plea for them that you will be very concerned with these individuals and not a bunch of strangers.
Thank you, Mayor.
Heather Mahon?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My concern is the same as y'all's as well. I think that the budgeting is the problem, and I feel like that if we could get some help with the budgeting at the REAP lodges, that maybe the money could go farther from you guys. I don't know, kitchen staff has nothing to do with our building, and you know, I thought we were just talking about the REAP lodges today, so that's what I'm gonna speak about. There's 26 women and there's 11 children, and if this place closes, we're gonna be out in the heat with nowhere to go whatsoever. I mean, the women and children can go to the Maxwell Respite Center or whatever it's called, but we cannot. Us single women are just totally on our own. So this is detrimental to us, and we need to find a way to maybe ask the Salvation Army to help us, you know, give us a break on the rent, or help, you know, make the payments be a little lower. But if you guys cannot help us entirely, we need to have more than 2 weeks to get out. 2 weeks is not enough to place everybody, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. Can I ask you, how many of the residents are single women like you that are going to be put out? So it's good to hear that the women and children can move to the respite center.
The
I'm happy
women and
to.
children can, and I would say that there's how many single women? So 20 of us are single.
And so you guys will not have a place to go.
We will not have a place to go at all.
All right.
I mean, Jeff, doing the math on 26, I mean, if you look at $200,000 for 6 months, that's $1,282 per adult, or if you took all 37 people, that's $900 per person. I mean,
it's high.
It's high.
But I feel like if there's room for the women and children to be moved to the Maxwell Center, and maybe their funding is more and they're having a better time at it, then maybe the women and children could go there, and it would give a break on the REAP lodges and just be single women, and that would lower the
Yes,
cost.
but I'm just saying, given the cost per person, it's high. I mean, you can, I mean, that's rent.
Yeah.
You can almost pay their rent for that same time, and you know, so.
And some of us work and are self-sufficient, so I don't understand the funding.
So do you pay, when you say work and self-sufficient, do they charge you to stay there?
We are charged to stay there, yes.
How much?
We're charged $10 a night.
$10 a night?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, to be fair.
But you know, it's not a homeless shelter, it's a transitional center. So
Right.
we're trying to transition out into living on our own and being able to stay
Yes, ma'am.
in a place by ourselves.
And you certainly understand, and you'll find out support. I ran the transitional housing before, so I get it. I've certainly been there.
So we would be backsliding by putting us out on the streets.
Our board is not putting anybody out on the street.
Okay,
The
thank
problems of the entity are not the problems of our board.
Right.
And to be fair, the people that are here to advocate on behalf of the entity really aren't the people that should be having to answer any of the questions that are being asked by our
Right,
board.
that's right.
They're here to advocate in good faith. And Ms. Mahan, you can have a seat. I don't have any questions for you. It's not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mahan.
It's not their responsibility task to account for the way that the nonprofit business portion of it is being run. I mean, why is it this much rent versus this much? I mean, this is, even the young man that's the operations director. I don't think it's fair for him to have.
No,
I don't think it's fair for him to have to answer the questions as well. I'm not sure where executive director is, but the long-term solution. I mean, and this goes back 3 years when. When the city first got some CARES money that came in with the way that they handled their, the way that they chose to handle their money, certainly they've got obviously all the rights to do whatever within the municipality. But I don't think, looking back, that it's worked especially well, because there's there's going to be an end to the funding. There was going to be an end to the programming. There was going to be an end, the vouchers for stays. Those are going to exhaust, and if you haven't helped with the problem still exists 6 months or a year later. And I'm not saying that I know what that answer is, but it's not the people that are here to advocate for themselves. It's not their responsibility to answer these questions. I haven't said much about this at any point in time. I'll do whatever y'all want to do, but it's, if we're going to fund a program, we're going to run the program.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to fund
That's right.
I'm not going to fund someone else to run a business with county money.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that. And I'm not encouraging that we do that necessarily.
No,
But if we're going to fund it,
you got an
we're going-
applause.
Yeah, well, that's not always great, but if we're going to fund programming, we should run programming. And, these are very expensive things. These are big dollar amounts he's talking about. It's not in good faith that you get an email 2 weeks before, you're going to have, women and children put out on the street. You get an advocate from our friend at the News Journal to run an article yesterday that, we'll be the Grinch if we don't give a nonprofit money. That's not the way that this process should work at all. That's not, in my opinion, that's not acting in good faith. It's offensive to be portrayed that way. But again, it's not anyone that's in the audience today advocating for their own welfare. It's not their fault, But in addition, it's not our fault either, that the nonprofit's in the financial situation that it's in. So whatever y'all want to do is fine. If you want to do some kind of bridge funding for 60 days or something, or allocate $50,000 or something to try to just keep the lodges going until we can have more discussions and ask the administrator and whoever else you deem appropriate to sit down and talk to Vinny about what we can do, or talk to the Salvation Army directly about what can be done. Whatever y'all think is best, I'll support, but we're not going to get the answers that the board wants from anyone in attendance today.
Well, I think that, as you said, the business model is not a model that we created. And so, definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And you can't even really buy your way out of debt. You got to figure out, how to become efficient. And so I think that Commissioner Kohler, put up $5,000. We have millions. Here's the reality of it. And the city has 1.4. We have money. We have to have the right plan. Now, I don't think we're going to get the plan here on the dais today. So, I know that the COC has worked hard. I know Community Health has worked hard. We know that Bright Bridges has worked hard. And I can just tell you, we have to have the right plan. Because if you go to Loaves and Fishes, I tell you what, they've been knocking on the door in perpetuity because they can't get open. They don't have enough money to get open. We have a serious problem. So I think we have to figure out exactly how we're going to allocate that. In my opinion, if that $5,000 gets them through this month, and we need to have a joint city council meeting with our COC to figure out what we do and how we allocate that money, I think we need to do it. I don't want to sit on money if we have people who are homeless. I think we should have a plan. These ladies deserve transition. They deserve to know exactly where their workforce is. How are we moving them out of there? It's called temporary housing. Now, how do we permanently keep these ladies in these houses? What do they need for case management? What do they need for workforce training? What do they need to make sure that they get their children out of there? It's inhumane to put children in a lodge and just keep them there in perpetuity. That's not the world they should see. They should see a world where they're getting up and they're going to school and they got on clothes and they're with their peers and they got what they need. That's who I want to save. I want the plan, and I don't care, maybe it costs more than $1,000 a month to save those children. Maybe it costs $2,000, I don't know. But if I get them off of this homeless housing and I get them in sufficient housing, then we've done a job. We're not going to solve all of homelessness, but maybe we take those 5 children or those 20 children and get them there, and I just don't think we get there today. So I'm all for, Kohler offering that up and meeting with Benny and administration, because we're not going to solve it in a public meeting. Two, those who are not controlling the purse strings in the pocketbook just don't know. We have a lot of homeless advocates. I mean, we got Allison Patton, we got Liz, we got Sandra Smiley, we got all these people that have been working behind the scene with the plan. I think that today is the day the rubber hits the road and we say we have to immediately implement this plan that we've been talking about.
But it's not going to be solved through putting pressure through our media outlets and painting the board as as Grinches if we don't do something. That's not going to solve the problem.
No.
That's and that strategy is a failing strategy, and it will continue to be a failing strategy.
Well, the reality, Stephen, I'll add this and then I'll give it to you because, I don't want to labor the point. We have hundreds and hundreds. I don't know what the point in time counts is. There's a lot of communities, a lot of encampments that have homeless people, and we're sympathetic to all. And so we got this letter, but we have to be very sympathetic to these ladies, but we also have to be sympathetic to the people that are staying in Brentwood Park and the people who stand on Herman Street. So we have to have that plan. And so I agree.
No, I'm with you. The only that was a lifeline, and I'll tell you why I threw that out. I've been there. The problem is, Mr. Webbs came to the health authority probably 3 or 4 years ago, asked for $100,000. We didn't authorize it because he didn't have a good business plan. And this is only a lifeline so that maybe the intervention can be there to keep these institutions so you ladies can transition and get out. But if there isn't a change in the business plan, there's no way the county can continue this, or any organization. I only did that because I've been there, I know what goes on in that building, and I don't want to see out on the street, but we really do, we'll need to have a meeting to discuss if we're going to do something.
You can't tell me, Mike, in Salvation Army, I don't believe an organization who's a Christian organization, that's an international organization, would evict people in 2 weeks because they couldn't pay $5,000. I wouldn't believe that. I would be very, very disappointed because Salvation Army functions off the generosity and the goodwill of this community. And so I wouldn't think that organization would put anybody out. So, if we can keep the operations and make sure people are fed and they're going for this next 30 days with that, I think they'll be fine. And I'm willing to call and make that phone call. I'm sure Jeff would. He put that on the agenda to call and say, Absolutely. Are you going to put them out? And if there is a debt and when you're going to put them out, I think they've heard the support of this board that they're not going to go unpaid. But we got to figure out a plan, and we got to figure it out. That's why you have the COC, and that's why you have these homeless coalition task force. We got more studies and more committees than you can. If we just stop having committee meetings buying coffee, you could feed a whole lot of homeless people. But we got to get everybody on the same page. So with that, Mike, are you making your motion?
Well, hey, before you do, just in case, because I might add to it, I was going to ask, Mr. Chairman, can that young gentleman come up again, the director? I want to ask him about 2 items, because I'm going to add to yours for the utility bills and for the food. I'm looking for a 30-day deal.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to do it a little bit longer, we might have some SHIP money, if the chairman would be open to that. And
I just don't want women and children.
Some of that with Mike's money.
What would keep you open for 30 days for right now to bridge the gap? 60 days. How much you need?
And I'm talking rent, utilities, and food, the basics. No.
I'm not even concerned about rent, Jeff. Personally.
Well, Mike's put $5,000 in, so he can use his for rent money, and I'll pay the. Yeah. So what's that number?
Rent and utilities, probably about $7,000, $8,000 a month.
And food.
Most of the food we get is donated.
Okay, so $7,000 get you going for another 30 days.
Yeah.
Or what do you think, Mike?
That would leave, we don't have money for staff.
And then I'm going to challenge Vinny to come up with a business.
Well, and may I just say for the record publicly, I'm extremely disappointed that Mr. Wibbs didn't come here today. I certainly hope that there's a good excuse. Because he sent me that email and I immediately put it on this agenda because I don't want to see people on the street. There's enough money in this county that no one should be on the street, frankly.
So Jeff, why don't we do this? You're going to put some discretionary.
Yes,
they need $21,000 to keep going.
No, they need.
He said $7,000 a month. That's what he just said.
Right, $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
So if we went 3 months, that's $21,000.
I don't want to do that. I want to go 30 days and let's come back
Okay,
with
well,
a
I'm
plan.
going to give him 3 months, but that's fine.
Well, then let's SHIP funding.
Okay, because we're not, it's government, we're not going to solve it in 30 days. I mean, I like what
60?
you're saying. 60 days, 60 days. I mean, I
14,
see-
15 grand, 15 grand.
Okay, 15, okay. And I just want to give them enough time to get our staff, our human services staff, our plan, city, all the people that have been working time enough to do it. They're not going to do it in 30 days, so that's fine. So all we got to do is take, he's giving 10, we just take 10,000 out of SHIP funding, and there we go.
And you put 5, okay. So is that the motion?
Yeah,
All right,
and they
Mike,
got
you wanna make that
$15,000, and that's 60 days, and you guys will come back with a plan in 60 days to tell us what we need to do. Is that good? Because
That'll keep the place
I'm trying to
open.
help these
Won't keep it
ladies.
staffed.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
They walk through my district every day. I'm trying to help these ladies.
Yeah,
So is that
it'll keep
good?
it open, but it won't keep it staffed.
I would hope the folks that really care would volunteer and.
But again, we can't pay for that right now.
We're not gonna pay, yeah,
I mean, it's in,
I hope there's some ministry and some partnerships, and I'm hoping, and I'm going to work with you, maybe, hopefully, to get that rent waived for the next couple months. If we could get the rent waived, you got the food for free. It seems like these ladies are pretty much self-sufficient. I mean, so I'm sure that when I ran the lodge, they cleaned, they kept the bathrooms up, they made the bed, they washed the linen.
They
I
do
mean,
that. They
so
do
it's
that.
not really a staffing issue there. It's just a monitor there, really, right?
Monitor, and then we have case managers help them transition out.
Well, I'd
How much
love to
are-
see the case. You know, listen,
how-
and I'm going to give more money because I want to see the case management plan on each one of those ladies. I'd love to see the case management plan on that lady and where she started and where she ends up, because that's the real human services for me. I can get on board and fund that, if we can say that. So you're saying we got a case manager?
Yes, sir. We have 2 case managers.
2 of them.
Yes, sir.
For how many people?
40 people.
The case managing the children and the adults?
It's
Sorta, kinda?
They case manage the family.
Case manager the
And
family.
they case manages the adults.
So you have 2 full-time case managers
Yes, sir.
at 40
One that
hours
runs
a
the
week.
lodge is the one that's case manager.
One's a what? I'm sorry.
One is the one who administers the lodge, the administrator. He's also a case manager, and then we have a case manager.
all right, so.
Okay, all right.
But Lumen, on the SHIP funds, it's reimbursement based. It goes for expenses like rent, utilities, internet, not staffing. So that's the caveat of the SHIP funding.
Well, they got 10 to do that, and they got 5 discretionary.
And
That they'll-
five?
Yeah.
You want to make that motion, Mike?
I'll make the motion, 10 out of SHIP and 5 out of my discretionary funds, under the assumption that Vinnie Webbs will be here and present a business plan that there's a way ahead, because if not, there's no way ahead. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
And so we'll entertain that motion in a second. But what I think, Commissioner Kohler, you're not going to be able just to limit it to Vinnie being able to come with a plan. You're probably going to have Loaves and Fishes. You're probably going to have Bright Bridges. You could have Community Health. You could have a whole lot of people that's going to come. So we got to be careful how we open that box. That's why it's very important to get the plan and, put out an RFP, an RFQ for people to come and get the money. I think we're just bridging this gap with a commitment that we're going to put this money on the ground in the next, there's no sense in, we don't need to put millions in the bank. We need to spend the money, just period. I mean, and we need to spend it, with a plan though. So I would be interested, and you'd find my support, because I see some of these ladies nodding their head. I'd like to, get the case management reports, where they come in, where they start, what are they doing.
Yes, sir. Everyone.
That would help us tremendously up here as we expend taxpayer dollars, because, we have a lot of camps where people are staying there where they want money. We got to figure out what's unique, and I know you have children and women, that makes it unique. So we got Waterfront Mission, we got Loaves and Fishes, so we just need a plan. So I think the 15,000 gets you over the next 60 days, and we'll work with you in any way that we can, talking to your landlord and trying to get, something done. Maybe we can work with the developer who's charging you, $15,000, $20,000 a month rent. That seems excessive. I mean, so maybe we can get that reduced.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. So we do have a motion and a second on, did you have something, Liz, before we make this vote? All right, thank you. Passes 5-0. And I do have one question. Congratulations, lady. Sir, I just have one more question. And I hate to put you on the spot, as Commissioner Perry said, it's so unfair. I mean, it'd be like me going to represent the county commission at a meeting, and I just don't have the authority to represent these 4 guys. Do you feel comfortable that this will give you another 60 days to go. You will not close in 2 weeks. We'll have 60 days plus these 14
We'll
days,
see
so.
what we can do. I can't give any guarantees without talking with Vinnie.
Well, I just need to know the number that keeps it open for 60 days before we have that discussion, because I'm not going to let
Vinnie will
I
be
have a
back.
real, I have a real affinity for that program.
Vinnie
And so
will be
I
back
can't
in
have that
town
program
tonight.
closing. So, I mean, if that's the numbers, if it keeps it open,
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yeah.
at least that gets us to the next meeting.
I hope that gets us to the next meeting.
I mean,
I,
so,
I mean, I would,
Yeah, Vinnie will be back in town tonight. He was at a substance abuse and mental illness seminar.
but in theory, if you tell me they cost $7,000 a month to run, that's what you said a
That's
few
just
moments
for- That's for rent and utilities and maybe insurance, but yeah. But I can have Vinnie call you tomorrow.
I'll call Benny myself. Okay, thank you. Congratulations, ladies. We know y'all, you're not bad. Yeah. Thank y'all. Thank you, ladies. And say hello to the children. Wes?
Car 3, number 3 is a discussion of OLF 8. We have one speaker.
Mr. Chairman, I asked to put this on the agenda. You have any issues with me setting the table before we do?
No, sir, go right ahead.
At a recent meeting, this board, in light of the Live Local Act, which we all realized would have taken away and preempted our ability to regulate growth, residential growth, dense residential growth on commercial and industrial property, in light of that, this board signaled its intention to pull back 250 acres for job creation in light of the retooled D.R. Horton counteroffer, which we sent out. As everyone knows, subsequent to that, we've received another offer from a different organization, again, requesting all the acreage with some strict conditions. So I asked Wes to add this to the agenda because this is 3 different offers in a row now that have requested right off the bat that we vary and move away from the master plan that we've voted and added to the ordinances. So if the board wants to move forward with 250 acres, which we did talk about the other day, in light of the Live Local Act and how that handcuffs us in terms of regulating residential growth, I'm of the opinion it's time to move forward with the jobs, the job growth, the job creation that we acquired that field for in the first place. Obviously, there's a lot of concern about these offers on this property. To me, I'm not certain we will get anyone that will live 100% up to this master plan. I just don't know that it's financially viable. We can wait for that. We can work with these buyers, but I think meanwhile, we have to pull that acreage back, get our Triumph grant, and get moving with job creation. If that's what this board wants to do, I would like to do that, and I don't see a good reason why not, particularly if none of these offers coming in are gonna align with the master plan. So I want to have that discussion. I want to have a thorough, robust discussion. Thank you.
Yep. So Jeff, I talked with Brian, the New Florida West guy, earlier this week, and, you know, he's done some of these larger sites before, and so I asked him to don't let us stand in the way of him advertising to companies that want to bring jobs to us and advertising the site. And so I hear what you're saying. You know, I mean, I don't know if we need to talk the offer, but they offered a couple $1 million less than what DR at Horton had offered for the whole site. So I don't know why we would go with them, but you know, again, some of these the things that they're putting in there, I don't think we can do legally in terms of contract rezoning, and you know, and looking at them, they do some mixed use with. Hold on, I want to get this right. So let's see. Sorry.
Teresa, please.
So it says that the Eisenhower Property Group manages the development of mixed-use projects with a heavy focus on residential. That's off their LinkedIn. So probably not what we want, but you know, like I said, I asked Brian to focus on bringing jobs to the sites and reaching out to some people that he's worked with before that get companies to come. So you know.
Well, let me ask you though, when you say reach out, under the assumption that we keep it and we get the Triumph Gulf Coast grant so that we can build the infrastructure. See, what I'm concerned about, guys, if we sell that property, the job creation portion, the 250 that we want to withhold, we sell it to a private developer, we lose the ability to get the Triumph Gulf Coast grant. So if we hold that back, and not only that, Robert, we also, I mean, they can come in and say, yeah, we want to do it, we want to build, you know, a high-tech job center. If we sell it to them, we lose the ability to control it. They can turn around and resell it, and we would not be able to stop them from putting high-density apartments. We know under the Live Local Act, they can preempt our ability to regulate it.
Sure.
So I think we need to control that 250 acres, and if we can control it, we can get a $10 to $15 million Triumph grant. We've already seen that we could.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And then we can
see on that. I mean, I think, was that West Reeder Road that runs on the north end of the
Frank
site?
Reeder Road, yeah.
Frank Reeder Road.
And this board's spending money on it.
Well, and I think we could go a Triumph grant for that to you know, widen that road or reinforce it for either truck traffic or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We already own that, so we don't have to worry about it, you know, and it would attach with the jobs that are on the site. So, you know, we may not have to own it, but I want to make sure that jobs come to that site and the best way to do it. But so we can see, you know, maybe they give us a little bit of something and we become more of a partnership than, you know, we still get something for the land, but we're involved. So,
but then we're back to square one, Robert. I mean, that was when we had the first buyer, and you know, and the thought was, well, if we sell the whole thing to one buyer, then we will lose the Triumph grant. And this board said, look, we worked hard, we want that Triumph money. My personal opinion at that time was, well, whether we get 45 million or 42 million from a private buyer or half of that, half from Triumph, as long as it all adds up. I mean, I really was agnostic, but the board at that time seemed like they really wanted the Triumph grant, and a lot of folks in the community really wanted us to approve it. To get the Triumph grant, we've got to keep that property, and that serves a dual purpose that prohibits a developer from coming in, saying one thing, and then building something else that they're allowed to build under the Live Local Act, which is really a horrible preemption on local control. I hope everyone realizes that law changed the entire way we have to approach OLF 8. It changed the entire way communities around the state, cities and counties, have to look at all commercial property and industrial property. It really preempted a lot of power. I understand affordable housing is a big issue, but that law is going to have unintended consequences that ripple throughout the state. And right now in Miami, I spoke with a specialist today, an expert in the field, and right now in Miami, they're freaked out because they're going to start building high-rise residential towers in industrial sites because they can. And obviously, I think a lot of us believe that law will have to be tweaked, but meanwhile, it's the reality we're living with. So back to the question, Robert, you know, I prefer not to do a half measure, sell 40 acres here, 40 acres here, worry about perhaps someone doing a switch around and then building apartments there, because that's what they always do. They say, we'll do this mixed use, we'll have retail, and then look at Inspire. Look at Inspire in Beulah, right by the interstate. It was supposed to have medical offices, it was supposed to have several restaurants. It's just a big apartment farm. That's all it is. I don't want an apartment farm on OLF 8. I never wanted any apartments on OLF 8. We have too much residential already out there and not enough infrastructure. I want to move forward with those jobs. I want to get a Triumph grant. It's what we were going to do in the first place, and I don't see a reason to hold back. I certainly hope that we have agreement on that. I mean, if we're waiting for someone to come in and say, I'm going to build this plan precisely the way you want it, we can't even do that anymore with the Live Local Act.
So, Jeff, is what you're saying you want to move forward with the Triumph grant for the improvements on Frank Reeder Road and the stormwater aspect of the property? Is that what you're...
I want to move 250 acres forward with the Triumph grant, all of the above, Steve.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to identify, we have to identify what the project's going to be. And I
Right.
think that what appears to be the most utility universally would be improvements on Frank Reeder Road to what would be a commercial industrial standard, and then some stormwater improvements. Because we do have to identify what we'd be doing in the grant application. And I think we already have a draft for that, or we already have that in process.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. It was the road coming up north from 9 Mile Road, but
I mean, more recently, I think the discussions have been on Frank Reeder. We may not have put something in a draft application yet related to Frank Reeder, but.
And I would support that, Stephen, but I also think we need to figure out I mean, unless we don't want to do the 250 acres anymore. I mean, this board said 250 acres. I heard that loud and clear at a meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we still want 250 acres, then why would we stop? Especially knowing now that we're not going to ever sell it because we don't want more apartments. Why wouldn't we move forward with the jobs on the 250 acres? A full-blown application to Triumph, roads, stormwater, infrastructure, Frank Reeder, the entrance road, all of the above.
I mean, Jeff, I think some of it is that we don't know what they want. I think that was the holdup a little bit, is that we may put a road in, and then they come in, and they're like, well, we need to put a building right where your road is.
I mean, we already have Frank Reeder Road. I mean, and we know there's stormwater needs on the property. We already have Frank Reeder Road that exists. That's not going to be, Frank Reeder Road's not going to be deemed useless through this project.
Is that already funded, though? Frank Reeder, I believe we've spent millions already. I know I put.
I know the improvements up to county standards are funded,
Yeah.
but not to industrial standards if we're talking about having.
Joy, can you please come forward? Yeah, I know from discretionary, I've put a tremendous amount of money in Frank Reeder Road.
But I think that's to get it up to county standards, not to like DOT or commercial standards. And if we're
Is
wanting.
Chris here? I think we did, Steve. I'll be very honest.
It's in the design process, and we're not really certain that we have the amount of funding that we need yet. As you can imagine, those costs
But
change
the design
every
right
day.
now is not to commercial DOT standards. I mean,
I wouldn't-
the design, okay.
Not a truck route, not exactly. But
Does
we
the
do
design, does the design match the design that we put in the application for the north-south road coming north off of 9 Mile Road?
No,
Okay,
no,
that's what I'm getting
Okay.
at. And we have to have a road like that access it. And I do agree with Robert. We want, again, I think, there are a myriad of reasons why the tech park has struggled, but one of them may not be the biggest one, but one of them is the build out of a grid with lots and saying we need you to fit your project into our lots that have streets and subdivided already. So I do think it makes sense to, if we're going to have that north side be the driver on the job creation aspect, then we get Frank Reeder Road up to the same standards that we were talking about having the road come off of 9 Mile Road to be able to do commercial, industrial, traffic that way. And then off of 9 Mile Road, if we're not going to do that road on the east side of the parcel, okay, then we improve Frank Reeder and we get it to the point where they can get commercial, traffic into there and out of there and not cut through the parcel, de facto subdividing it into the main part. And I think that, the improvements, and I, like I said, I know you've put money towards it, but if you remember what the number was on that road on the east side of the parcel, it was a big number.
14
Yeah,
million.
when you start talking about, DOT commercial standards, as well as the stormwater stuff related to the road, as well as the stormwater stuff related to the parcel itself, to the whole parcel. Because, and then we would perpetually own the road. I mean, we're going to perpetually own Frank Reeder Road. We're going to perpetually own stormwater improvements. And you're talking about an $8 or $10 million triumph ask there. And
Where would the storm detention be? On the field?
I presume,
Okay.
yes, wherever the engineers tell me it's supposed to be, but it appears that the southwest corner is low.
Are we still committed to 250 acres for jobs?
I think across the board at least, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
And I do, not disagree. I mean, I would love to have somebody, come and take the 250. I'd love to have somebody come and take the 540 and lock them into the jobs on the north side or, whatever.
But we know we can't trust them to do it.
But if we had somebody come and say, I'll take, I want 40 acres for this, that we like, we like the development, I'd say, cut it out, sell them the 40 acres.
Let me ask you this.
We like the number and we like the development.
I like that too, but what if they did that, Stephen, and then they turned around and said, we're going to build apartments because we can under the Live Local Act?
I believe we still have the ability to put language into the contract before we actually transfer the title to them. We have control that we wouldn't normally have because we currently own the property.
Because we currently own it. That's true. That's a true statement.
Now, if it was private to private, I don't think, if it was owned by ABC developers and they're selling it to DEF developers, and we tried to have them insert language in there, I don't think we would have a standing at the table or a seat at the table for that. But in the interest that we currently have the equity interest in all the dirt, I think we can control language in the sales contract. And I'm comfortable with our ability to do that really legally. I think we can do that. So I would be okay with that. Now, that doesn't currently exist. I do think it's very, obviously we responded to Horton, earlier this week. I do think that we'll hear something back from them. within the next week. I think that's very reasonable. We'll hear something back. And then at that point in time, either we've got a blank slate and we're potentially talking to somebody about the whole parcel again, or we're still just talking about the north 240 or 250. But I think the board.
So you guys want to retool the Triumph grant, not talk about the 250 acres, but just move the road that would have gone into the property over to Frank Reeder and keep the storm detention, all that other stuff.
Wherever that was being talked about, and I think that we're still in, and maybe the number, I want to say the number on that Triumph grant was 14 or so, and because Frank Reeder exists, and you've already, dedicated some money towards it, maybe the number's not 14, maybe it's 10, but I think there's still a pretty healthy ask there.
There will be a jobs component to that, though. I mean, there will be a requirement.
The county's going to be on the hook for that, but it's not, the job requirements in these Triumph grants aren't that great. I mean, if we can't end up getting, I don't know, 400 or 500 jobs on the property, I mean,
I think there's a demand. There's a demand right now out there.
There's utter failure on our side. The clawback stuff.
Lots.
I mean, whether it's the IREF funds that were administered through UWF, that started 10 years ago, or Triumph or whatever, or EDA grants, that nobody has an interest to claw back money. It's not an interest. If we act in any degree of good faith and are even marginally successful putting some jobs on the property, we'll meet the requirements in the Triumph grant. And the truth is, if we just fail in every regard and to claw the money back, we have the money to pay, even if we don't want to. I mean, and that's years and years down the road.
Well, and I appreciate the discussion, and for everyone's, information, we can only have these at these meetings, and so I have no idea where my counterparts are in terms of these decisions, obviously. But to the tech park, I would simply say, unlike the other county commerce parks, and you know this, Stephen, as well, it's very narrow, the bandwidth of the types of uses, and I think more than the layout and the grid, that's what handcuffed that property. We've had multiple people interested in building different things there, but we would have to pay the gigantic penalty to Space Florida because it was grant funded.
But I do think the grid is pre-setting, not allowing people to have an empty palette when they're looking at developers and things like that. I mean, especially large ones. I mean, there are confidences that they have in themselves, and to some degree, the blank palette gives them the ability to have the vision and to start to visualize what they could successfully put on it and not have to fit it into a mold that exists already. And I think to some degree they like to, they're very confident in their own visions, and Blank Slate gives them their own vision.
Hey, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. No.
I've got to be in Shalimar in 35 minutes for an ECRC meeting. Can we just vote on Cat 1 and then?
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys mind, Madam Attorney, do you mind just, Mr. Chairman, do you mind if we take that real quick?
I'm pretty much moving to a hard stop about 11:15 myself.
Okay. And again, I'm sorry, I just have to get over there for this other
No,
ECRC meeting.
Okay, well, look, that's enough of a discussion. I guess, Wes, we're just going
And I
to.
don't want to,
There are two speakers. There are
speakers. Yes, ma'am. Do you mind if we just vote?
I know how many speakers. I can count to two.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what'd you say?
I'm saying, do you mind if we just take action on Cat 1 real
County
quick?
Attorney's
So I can
report.
vote on that and then go?
All right, are you moving the county attorney's report?
One of the items is a discussion item.
Discussion item, so I would just move the first item.
All right, second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we do have two speakers. What's our first speaker? John Callis. Go win one. Chipper.
My name's John Callis. I live in Nature Trail.
We voted, but I think it was unanimous.
Just when I had so many nice things I was going to say about you guys, you wouldn't let me talk. Well, I'm here now. And I do have respect for things of your positions. Lumon May, you're always standing up for jobs, and residential on OLF 8 that would be cost efficient for people to live there. Commissioner Barry, your diligence with the contract issues. Commissioner Bender taking positions to perpetuate the plan itself that we all agreed on. Commissioner Kohler for just being here to take your position that we don't know yet. And Commissioner Burgos, I mean, I have to say, you always give opportunities for people to come forward and discuss things like you did this morning. Open dialogue, and I do respect that. Can you bring me my glasses, please? I do have a horse in the race also. And that, of course, is traditional neighborhood design, walkable neighborhood, mixed use. You have, as far as I know, no offers that meet the RFP. There's a difference between tweaking a plan and making it work or abandoning it. And it seems to me that we ought to be looking at rewriting RFPs, especially in light of the state's Live Local Act dangers. You've had talk this morning about wanting to do Commerce Park first, and it makes me think, why not do both at the same time? I mean, you can get the light industrial part ready while going out with an RFP for the residential town center part. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Teresa Blackwell.
Teresa Blackwell, I live in Beulah, and don't start my time for a second. I think it was pretty disrespectful for you all to have a discussion without letting us speak first. It just kind of shows that you don't really care what we have to say. So first, I'd like to say I tend to agree with Commissioner Burgos, so I didn't quite comprehend or hear all that Commissioner Bender was saying. I think we should retain the light industrial on the north, as well as the western slice that has our civic zone property, the woods, and the wetlands. You can start to get that ready with Triumph infrastructure dollars up there. And why rush the development, though, if the market just brings warehouses, as is likely until the new interchange is built? Not good paying jobs. Who would want multiple buildings with 20-bay loading docks and trucks running through their community day and night? As Marina Corey said this morning, not large distribution centers, of course. At the same time, go out with an RFP for what the county actually wants to sell, the residential, commercial, and town center property on 9 Mile Road. There are still enormous signs up that say we want to sell 540 acres. In the RFP include traditional neighborhood development, T&D. That is what is in our DPZ master plan. That is what Breland and others already build successfully. Those three offers from builders do not represent the market by any stretch of the imagination. Breland did not want to build much light industrial. That is not what they do. They build high-quality residential to start, then the good neighborhoods attract an anchor to a walkable town center with retail and restaurants. Breland already builds T&D the way the master plan requires. It has rectangular blocks, parking in back with alley access, diverse lot sizes and building materials, street trees, sidewalks, and lighting. They have, in fact, been financially
Teresa, can you kind of close it down?
successful. I've been at this for more than 6 years, and if I could have a little bit more time, that would be nice, especially...
Go ahead and keep reading, Teresa, because you're
they
explaining
have,
about
in
6
fact,
years. You better finish.
been financially successful in doing that. The other two, D.R. Horton and Eisenhower, they just don't build T&D, so that's not what they want to do on OLF 8. They build tract homes that don't even last a year. up to warranty. Eisenhower is no better than Horton with just a little greenwashing. They use Horton to build their homes. It's just going to attract strip retail. As Ms. Corey said, go with the DPZ plan. If they have parts they want to change, they must justify it, and there is room
Hi, Teresa, thank you.
to accommodate some changes
Thank you, Teresa.
within the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jeff?
Yeah,
You
no,
good?
we're good. We're
All
good.
right,
Thank you guys
All
for
right,
the
what-
discussion.
Wes? No? Good? Allison?
There's one item remaining on the county attorney's report. This is at the request of Commissioner Bergosh. I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, as a
And we
member-
do have a speaker, Jeff, if you want.
Yeah. This is, as a member of the TDC, this was an issue that was brought forward to see whether or not we could utilize tourist development tax to help pay for the Memorial Plaza, the Chappie James Memorial Plaza. I think there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of uncertainties about who actually will own it. And I know that according to our attorney and Kristen Hool, if it's owned by the city, the entire thing, then it could be potentially a legitimate TDT expenditure. Those questions, I think, remain uncertain, although I did speak with the mayor last night I was there for an unrelated topic, but I asked him about that specifically, and he said it wasn't his intention to have the city own the plaza. So the thought process was that we should get an attorney general's opinion, if you guys would agree to that, to see whether or not, given the circumstance where the city owns the land and a not-for-profit would own the Memorial Plaza and the static display and the jet and maintain it, would that qualify for TDT funds? And so I told them I would bring that request to this board. No guarantee the board would vote to do it, because I do believe in order to get an attorney general's opinion, it would require a vote from this board. So that was the discussion, and that's what I brought. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chris Dosif?
Good morning again. As far as the ownership of Wayside Park, I mean, that is owned by the city of Pensacola. And as far as the plaza, it'd be no different than the cabanas that are currently out at Wayside Park. It'd just be a structure on the actual land that's owned by the city of Pensacola. The elements, the city of Pensacola has in fact purchased the statue. We, as a 501, have purchased a flagpole, which would then be donated to the city on our behalf. We just happen to consummate that transaction. As far as the airplane, the city's already entered into a memorandum of agreement with the Air Force Museum out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, because there's no other way for the aircraft to be transferred it has to be to a municipality, just like they do in Orlando. There's an F-4 Phantom there outside the Orlando Executive Airport. So that's what's happening there. With regards to tourism, that is really the question, right? I mean, I saw the notes here from an email. Just let me read it to you here. The big concern is whether or not the board recognizes this as a matter of tourism. I would suggest to you that it most certainly is, for a number of reasons. One, it's going to be right there at the entryway of the city. It welcomes over 100,000 people a day, vehicular traffic across the bridge, and it invites not only tourists to our city in a very grand manner, right? An airplane and a flag and a statue of General James, but it also invites them to recognize this city because it recognizes its heroes and it recognizes General James. Now, am I limited here or am I answering questions?
Well, I will have a question for you, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. Chris, let me ask you this. Who is communicating with the city? Because it seems to me, speaking with the mayor last night, that there's a disconnect between what they think and then what you're saying. So I guess Who is interfacing with the city and the leadership over there?
That's a good question. I mean, keep in mind, we started this process, let's just say, with the naming of the bridge back in 2018.
Yep.
So we've been at it for 5 years. We were working with the previous administration, we go over Mayor Robinson. And our communications with Mayor Robinson's office was open, transparent. And to the press and to the public. We've never said anything or done anything that we haven't presented publicly, okay? And so there has been a change in administrations as a result of the election. And so since the beginning of that transition, we have been attempting to communicate and have a meeting set with Mayor Reeves. Just now, like 24 hours ago, we were able to set a date for September 13th. But we've attempted on numerous occasions, and I get it. He's a busy guy. He's the mayor of it's a new position, his first elected situation here with the mayor. I understand he's very busy, and there's a lot going on in the city. At the same time, we're concurrently trying to get done what we're attempting to do. So, it's not as if, though, we have not been reachable. We're more, and Butch Hansen is our treasurer and has been regularly communicating with the city with all of our developments. Whether it was inviting the sculptor here to the town, whether it was reception of the aircraft and the preparation of the aircraft. All these things have been covered in the press. We've made public notices on them, and we have not done anything to preclude meeting with the mayor or his staff.
May I also ask you this? So do you have a written agreement with the city? Obviously, you were working with Mayor Robinson before he left office. Obviously, you have to have permission. It's their property. You have to have some sort of permission to build the giant thing. Do you have a written instrument that indicates?
We have a template, and the template is the one that's currently used by the Veterans Memorial Park. Okay, and that's what, in essence, we see ourselves really no different in providing the city and the community the same things that they do at Veterans Memorial Park, in a way of a memorial park, in this case a monument to our hometown hero. And so we would think that the language in those in both of those circumstances should be very, very similar. Nothing say other than the MOA, the memorandum of agreement with the Air Force, which the city has already signed.
Well, as you saw at the TDC meeting, I don't necessarily believe that there was any kind of pushback to the funding request. I think most of us feel like it's a worthwhile expenditure if it's legal, though. So that's what brings us here, and I just want to make sure. But there was questions about who owns the property, who owns the monument. So in order for us to compose a cogent request of the Attorney General, which, we've got to be dead on, or else it'll get kicked back, or it could take a long time. We've got to answer those questions. So, I think this meeting might not be ripe for all that.
Well, I think we had that question answered 2 years ago. There's a document that I sent to you all. Did you see that? Yeah, and I sent to every one of you just yesterday that clearly stipulates the AG's opinion on this matter.
Okay, are you talking about the war memorial that was moved out of a mall when they renovated the mall? Yeah, and it said it's up to this board to make that turn.
There you go. So that's what it boils down to.
But there's the ownership of it as well. That's part
ownership of what?
Of the monument itself.
Well, how does the city not own everything there at Veterans Memorial Park to include?
I don't know that TDT expenditures are used
to include the Vietnam Veterans Wall there.
Again, I don't know, Chris, that we use tourist development money over there. I'm not sure.
Oh no, I don't think you did.
Okay.
I don't think you did. But if it comes down to an issue of ownership, I thought it had to come down to an issue of whether or not it's a tourism feature.
Yeah,
I think it's a tourism. Do you agree that this, in fact, would enhance tourism to the city of Pensacola? That's what we need to determine.
I don't disagree, but that board and what I told them I would do would be to bring that question to this board, whether or not it's an authorized expenditure, Attorney General's report. One of the issues it hinged on was who actually owns it, and then, of course, the ancillary point is it an appropriate expenditure for a monument like that?
You see, and from David Baer's comments, he made no mention of ownership. All he cared about was whether or not this was going to be a feature that enhanced the county's ability to attract tourists.
Yeah.
I suspect that answer is unequivocally yes. It does attract tourists, most certainly. Where is it that you have a $500 million bridge entering into a city where you're going to be greeted by an 80-foot flagpole and an F-4 Phantom and a depiction of the
Chris,
general?
let me ask you a question, then I'll give it to Kohler and Tiberi, and then I'll let Jeff wrap it up because it's his item. Are you working with Visit Pensacola? Have they kind of agree with you that this is a tourist attraction?
Oh, without a doubt. And because they also indicated to me they have over 60 reunions every year, military reunions in this community. So
That's
they're
all.
gonna-
You said you got to support a Visit.
Yes,
That's,
sir.
That's all. I just need to know that you
Yeah.
support it. So Visit Pensacola, who is our marketing tourism arm, is supporting, saying that this is a major attraction.
And my concern is Wayside Park. I mean, in a big scheme of things, that is your first impression.
That's fine. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, if,
It's all about
if,
tourism.
If they've affirmed it, then I mean, I see Darren.
Yeah,
then
it's all about
that's fine.
tourism, and it's all about promoting Pensacola.
Commissioner Kohler, then Commissioner Berry, and I'm telling you, I'm leaving in 5 minutes. So Kohler, then Berry.
I'll do this real quick. Chris, I guess the question, and you brought this to us yesterday about the Attorney's General report, and Madam Counselor, did you have a chance to read that? Does that suffice?
No.
It doesn't? Okay, so
No.
that's important to know. So why doesn't it?
Number one, because the facts are distinguishable. In this 1998 Attorney General's opinion, it appears that it's a county, in both cases, it was going to be county-owned.
Okay.
Because it was a county memorial that they had to remove, and then they were replacing it with a county memorial. The fact pattern has been evolving. Every time I'm asked, it's a different fact pattern about who owns what in this particular case. So if we're going to ask the question, I would like to be able to set forth what the actual fact pattern is going to be once this thing is on the ground.
So for the
And
record, we need to have another Attorney General's report, is what you're saying?
if the board's direction is that it might be interested in obtaining an Attorney General's opinion, you can direct me to ask for that. But I'm just telling you, it's a worthless endeavor unless you actually can express what the plan is going to be for who's going to own what.
Well, who's going to own it? That's the simple question. Who's owning it? Who's going to own it?
It's City of Pensacola
So the city's
property.
going to own it?
Yes.
Okay.
And so what we do here with the Veterans Memorial Park is they have
Chris,
they
I
have
don't,
an
mean,
association.
I don't mean to cut
I
you
know.
off, Chris. I mean, we're just going way too long. The city's going to own it. You got affirmation from the city that,
It's their property. Who else is going to own it?
I'm looking at Charles Baird to nod or shake his head. And, yeah, but
The city is indicating through their legal staff that it is not their intention to own the memorial or maintain it.
The maintenance thing is no different than Veterans Memorial Park. Veterans Memorial Park has an agreement, an MOA with the city to maintain that park, and we would do the same.
But
for the
Chris,
plaza.
I mean, Jeff, I'll support you for the Attorney General report because I will never deny getting clarification from a higher body. But our legal is telling us that she doesn't have sufficient information.
I have a perfect
If her
motion.
and Chris can work that out and bring it back, you got my opinion.
It's not evolving from us. I'm not evolving anything here,
Well,
okay?
Chris, what I'm going to do after I hear from Michael, I'm going to make a motion that asks the attorneys to clarify with the attorneys from the city and the city staff, A, is it going to be owned, the entire thing, by the city? And then, once we know that, if it is indeed going to be owned by the city, then is it a legal expenditure of TDT funds if it's a city? I believe this board can make the determination, because that's what your Attorney General opinion says, and it's what I believe, that it does or does not serve as a tourist function, but we have to have the underlying question of ownership first. So that's what we're going to do. I'll have them figure that out, and I think from there we can ask for the Attorney General's opinion.
All right, cool.
All right, if I
Cole,
can-
go.
If I
So-
can finish.
sorry-
So that's
sorry
good
for cutting you off.
clarification, because I wasn't sure if that meant the intent. Second thing is, as far as tourism, I was in Albany, Georgia last week, Ray Charles Plaza. I definitely think it's a tourism attraction. I don't see how it couldn't be. People stop there. It's a first black four-star general. I think it absolutely. So I'm in support of that, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so I will make
Thank
that. I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion.
Second, and all we're doing is getting the Attorney General's opinion.
Correct. After
We're not even getting the Attorney General report.
After staff ascertains ownership post-construction.
Okay.
Right? You can do that, right, Allison? All right. That's
All
my
right,
motion.
So that's what we got. So Allison, you'll work with the city council and the mayor and the legal department?
Yes, sir.
And to get clarification. Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That passes
All right.
4-0 with,
Mr. Chairman, before we break, can we reassess something? I know Commissioner Bender's left, and it's in his district, but the applicant has come and has chatted with our GMR staff, and there are some issues with being able to close, and it doesn't deviate far from some of your concerns about, you know, they had kind of jumped through the hoops to get to where they were, and now having it dropped. So I would move that we rescind the dropping of GMR2 and rather than drop, to approve item 2, A, B, C, and D. This is the plat that we dropped.
Okay, so,
That's in District 4. We dropped item 2 on GMR and to come back, and what I'm asking is to rescind the board's action and to actually approve item 2, A, B, C, and D.
would that include the 2-year warranty, Vice, what he was asking?
It would just be as it is, yes.
Well, I wish, I mean, I would have preferred, I mean, look, in deference to each commissioner's district, in theory, I support that, but I would, I mean, is there some compelling reason why I can't wait till our next meeting so he can weigh?
Evidently.
Huh?
Evidently.
Okay. And how does it?
I gotta go.
Look, I'll second it for discussion, Steve,
Yeah.
but again, what is the compelling reason?
Let Joy give Joy 30 seconds to explain, but I don't think it's unreasonable, and it's not much deviation from what Commissioner May was saying, that, we do have people that have gone through hoops, and they probably have contracts in place, and they
Well,
feel like
and I
they've-
said that too.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah, y'all both expressed that, but, and, it's unfortunate that Robert left. I don't know if Joy and
Joy,
Horace had a chance to talk to Robert at all, but I don't think it's inappropriate to go back and to go ahead and approve the item.
All right, so you got a motion and a second to do just that. Joy, what is the compelling reason we have to go back?
One of the main reasons is the warranty is already signed and approved through legal, and it is in accordance to our current code. And also, the contractor, if you will, is somewhat already released, if you will, after the 2 years, because they do not, that was the extent of their contract. So the developer is here today, would be on the hook for it without a contractor to support him. So it kind of puts them in a precarious position.
All right, no problem. Give me a motion and a second, I'm good to vote.
Thank you.
Oops, chair stepped away. Please vote. Item passes 3-0 with Commissioner May and Commissioner Bender off the dais. If nothing else, we'll adjourn.